Present, I call to order the October 1st meeting of the City of West Sacramento City Council, the West Sacramento Redevelopment Agency, and Finance Authority. We will begin with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we live, work, learn, and commune is the original homelands of the indigenous people of West Sacramento, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We acknowledge and we thank the original inhabitants who have occupied, maintained, and secured this place, and who still exist on this land. We respect and celebrate the many diverse indigenous people still connected to this land on which we gather. The council did not meet in closed session this evening. We would like to invite our guests to join the council and staff in the pledge, which will be led by Leslie Hunter. Please stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance from your seat. Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. As is noted on our agenda, City Council is prohibited by state law from discussing or taking any action on items that are brought up under item 1 for public comment, but it provides an important opportunity for a public forum. The public is given an opportunity at this time to address City Council on issues not listed on the agenda. And we do ask anyone wishing to address the council on this or any other item this evening to please fill out a request to speak card, return it to the clerk. We accept the request to speak cards up to the conclusion of the reading of the staff report on any particular agenda item. And you will also be given specific instructions on the appeal today. Once the staff report has been read, we open the item up for public comment, and the clerk will announce your name for you to walk up to the podium. Now, in front of the clerk, there is a timer to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to be heard. And we ask that all comments be limited to 3 minutes. Also, in front of the clerk is an analog flip chart, which indicates which agenda item the council is currently considering. We also recognize that for some, speaking in public can cause anxiety, so we request that there be no applause or boos, catcalls, or other demonstrations. Furthermore, so that we may maintain a civil discourse here in the chambers, we ask that those in attendance and those who address the City Council abide by the code of conduct posted and not speak in loud, threatening, offensive, abusive, or other disrespectful language that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. Now, this brings us to item 1. Presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the council, and each person has 3 minutes to speak. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak?
Yes, ma'am. Guy Stevenson?
Ladies, Mayor, how you doing? I have a question, and I'm really not trying to give anybody a hard time, but this issue with VIA. You guys think it's such a spectacular service? Not so much. You've had 3 managers with that company. Now they got a lady named Lisa. She came from a booze distribution company, and she doesn't know anything about that service. It's terrible. It may save the city money, and the city may dump money into it, and that's fine because it's your city. You can do what you want. Just personal observation. As you know, I wear a body cam probably 80% of the time when I deal with people, and I talk to people. I'm not saying, Dante, that you're not doing a good job. You're doing a wonderful job. But because you oversee, now we've had an issue. I told you that I don't agree with the way VIA runs. They're a poor service. It starts with management. I've checked other cities where VIA is, and they run smoothly. But if you don't have the right people running it, the management, it doesn't function right. A lot of drivers say that they send emails, passengers see emails to Lisa, she never gets back. This is the 3rd one they've had in a year. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the people either don't like what they're doing or they don't know what they're doing. So if you had a meeting with them or you had somebody to do accountability checks on this company, maybe you'd find out what's really going on with them. I'm not trying to be a jerk towards any of you about VIA. I'm just bringing it to your attention. It's just observation. It's people that I talk to. And they said, oh, yeah, I've been waiting an hour and a half for a ride. You shouldn't have to. This city isn't like the Bay Area. not like Sacramento. And then I thought it was funny when Stephanie Chan said, well, we need to raise the rates on the pass like Palo Alto. Do you know how much it costs to live in Palo Alto? About $300 and something thousand a year, because it's right there in the Silicon Valley. So those people can afford to pay these enormous passes. You people can do what you want. It's the city's money. And of course, you guys have Measure O, so you can just keep giving VIA all the money you want, even though it's a company in New York. The people that actually, Buggy, they're from New York. They're all from the East Coast. Why don't you get somebody that's out here in the West Coast? You know, in your next bid, have them bid for it, and have different companies bid for it, and maybe some have a good night. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maria Grijalva.
Good evening, City Council. I'm here to enter into public record and to express concerns regarding the code of conduct when we're making a public comment. I think I'm here to express the importance of having emotion during a public comment. Sometimes we're told that we can't be disrespectful or appear disrespectful or say certain language, but we have to understand that expression includes emotions. And so my comments today are about our fundamental right to free speech. The First Amendment protects not just what we say, but also how we choose to say it. This includes the right to express frustration, dissatisfaction, emotions that are essential to honest dialogue. We cannot speak in monotone voices. You may have noticed, well, no, actually, I'm not. So a truly free society or city governance must protect not only our polite disagreements, but also the passionate and frustrated voices that demand to be heard. And emotion is just part of life, and we have to accept it as a part of it. So when we are limited to a monotone voice, our communication loses its power, and we fail to convey the importance of our message. And so we also disengage our listeners, and we cannot effectively communicate the emotion behind our words. So making vocal restrictions or telling us don't be disrespectful, I can understand the threat, but a threat is really subject to interpretation. And so I want to say this because I'm sure our mayor was given this template to read off, and I think that it might have come from our city attorney. And on that point, I think that, in that sense, our city attorney really has a history of giving bad advice. And I really recommend that you reconsider the wording in that code of conduct, because we all know that our city attorney helped implement Jim Crow voting against Latinos. We all know that our city attorney helped implement a 10-year gang injunction against Latinos. And we also know that the city attorney helped us to get the Baldwin Parkway, which was done illegally, and everybody saw that, and it was an embarrassment to our city that we have the street named after a living person. Anyway, so thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Maria.
Matt Weaver.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. How are you? I missed a warning, so if I'm off base, give me a scowl. Let me know. So I'm here, I think, officially on a posture of small business advocacy. I watch almost every single meeting. If I don't attend, we got the internet these days, pretty cool. You can see exactly what's going on in here. I don't see a lot of conversation about small business, local brick and mortar, four-wall, Main Street, in your community, conversations in here. The last time I heard anybody talking about Measure In was city manager and staff volunteering Measure In money to go to the parks. The biggest expenditure I know of Measure In is the consultant that we hired to tell people that we have baseball in West Sac. Then there's these maps. You've got your cannabis equity license. The maps, made up maps, brand new maps, new zones. Then you got your Measure In accelerator money. Brand new maps. It's not your district maps, not your district maps, not your district maps. It's not my school district map. It's not the cannabis equity map. It's this new map with who's the unentitled, the entitled, and who's doing really good and who's not really good, with some magic decoder ring that you must work on city staff to figure out. And sure, we have the city, the chamber. I remember when Verna was very involved with the chamber, advocating, talking to me as a member of the chamber. It's been a long time since I had anybody do that. I remember when Dante was running, Dr. Early was running for her first term, she came and talked to me and said, what are you doing? I've talked to Karina about business and Martha, sorry for first name. You know, anyway, that's your first name, right? With all that said, I know you guys care. I do know that. I'm not confused. I don't think the city cares. I don't think staff cares. I talk to architects who tell me it's a dumpster fire. Don't you dare pull a permit to build something in an existing structure in West Sacramento. I watched the paint dry with you guys trying to release things through staff. Nobody really cares about small business. And I don't see that posture and tenor from staff, from a leadership position in the city. And I'm just going to keep showing up and shining a light on how absurd your process is, how unfriendly it is unless you got big, well-heeled developer dollars from the other side of the river, or a consultant who knows somebody who's going to get anything done in the city. Anything. But boy, if you know the right people, you can move the needle. But if you've been here for 20 years, you put your kids through schools here, you're just going to hit brick wall after brick wall. And you know what you're going to say is, American dream's not happening in West Sacramento, California. That's the environment that's fostered in cities that make California rough.
We have no additional requests to speak on item 1.
All right, now we have the consent agenda. If there are any requests to pull any of the items on the consent? No. Oh, proclamation, sorry. Yeah, I didn't put that down on my list of things here. And next, thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. Next are our presentations with our honored guests who are here to receive them. We will begin with item 2, which is the only item recognizing the National Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Thriving in Pink. And we have a team from Thriving in Pink and my daughter, Eleanor Sanchez. Please come up to the podium. And we'll read the proclamation. Councilmember Orozco will join me in reading the proclamation. And from there, we would like for you to share a few words with us, and we'll also allow for the council members to provide their thoughts as well. And so this is the proclamation of the City Council, City of West Sacramento, recognizing National Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Thriving in Pink. Whereas breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer among American women, it is estimated that 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime, with over more than 4 million women now living in the U.S. with a history of breast cancer. And whereas as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October is an opportunity to recognize the commitment to fighting this disease, providing education on risk reduction and early detection, and supporting those affected by breast cancer. And whereas Thriving Pink, established in Davis in 2016 as local 501c3 nonprofit, has a mission to help local breast cancer survivors thrive with a network of support offering all programs and services at no charge to the community. And whereas Thriving Pink volunteers represent breast cancer survivors, community members, business owners, and health and wellness professionals who come together to make a difference in the lives of those who are battling this disease. Council member? Oh, sorry, I have it.
Whereas Thriving Pink helps breast cancer community from the time of initial diagnosis and throughout survivorship, providing individual financial grants for immediate and essential needs, and programs such as Pink Peer Mentors for newly diagnosed individuals, renewal retreats for those who have completed treatment, and wellness and education workshops for all. And whereas Thriving Pink has expanded outreach to underserved communities throughout Yolo County, including West Sacramento, to meet increased needs with the vision that no one will go through breast cancer alone. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of West Sacramento does hereby recognize the special efforts that occurred during the October's Breast Cancer Awareness Month and the outstanding support that Thriving Pink provides to breast cancer survivors in our community throughout the year, proclaimed this first day of October 2025.
Thank you, Councilman. You can please share a few words with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, West Sacramento Council members. My name is Gina Bravo. I am the hospital president for Dignity Health Woodland Memorial Hospital, a Thriving Pink board member, and a breast cancer thriver. Thank you so much for recognizing Thriving Pink and our service to the Yolo County community as we head into October for National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I am one in 8 women who are diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. Thriving Pink is here for anyone in Yolo County impacted by breast cancer. We provide support from the time of diagnosis through survivorship at no cost. We are a volunteer-driven organization, and we work closely with local healthcare systems, businesses, and other organizations to meet the needs of the breast cancer community. This month during Pinktober, there will be many events for breast cancer survivors to help us spread awareness, seek support, and raise funds. We invite you to join us. Activities will be posted on our website at thrivingpink.org. Or you may stop by our office at 2nd and D in Davis. On behalf of Katie, Carmelita, and myself, our executive director, Leslie Hunter, our volunteers, supporters, and most importantly, the breast cancer community, we want to thank the West Sacramento City Council and the City of West Sacramento for this proclamation. Your support and recognition mean everything.
Good evening. I'm Katie Minke. I'm a board member with Thriving Pink, and just honored to serve on behalf of our board and some amazing breast cancer survivors. As you said in the proclamation, some of our programs and services include peer mentoring, educational workshops, thriver support circles for those newly diagnosed after treatment and during survivorship, and for metastatic thrivers. One of our more important programs that we provide to the community is our Granting Pink program that provides financial support to those going through breast cancer. We provide comfort pillows like this one and comfort bags that help and provide useful items as they're going through treatment, and a variety of events that help breast cancer patients during their journey. We're deeply committed to ensuring that no one goes through breast cancer alone. And this recognition means a great deal to Thriving Pink, and we thank you for having us here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to talk to you about something deeply personal, something that changed my life and could save someone else's. Recently, I was diagnosed with 2 different types of breast cancer. That news hit me like a wave that I never saw coming. One moment, I was living my normal working mom life, just like all of you, and the next, I was sitting in a doctor's office listening to the words I never imagined would apply to me. "I'm sorry, but you have cancer." The truth is, I wouldn't have known. I felt fine. I had no symptoms, no pain, no lump that I or my doctor could feel. If I hadn't gone in for my regular screening, I might still be walking around today completely unaware that something inside me was trying to take my life. I'm standing here today because I got a mammogram. Now I know early detection is not just a slogan, it's a survival. It's a hope, it's a time to fight, it's a time to heal, it's a time to live. Breast cancer doesn't always present itself with flashing warning signs. It doesn't wait until your schedule is clear or until life feels convenient. It shows up when it shows up, and the only defense we have is being proactive. I want to say this clearly. Getting screened is not an option, it's an essential. Mammograms save lives, screening save lives. Talking to your doctor, asking questions, knowing your risk, it all matters. Because of that mammogram, my cancers were found early, and because they were found early, I have options. I have a path forward. I have a fighting chance. I wouldn't wish this diagnosis on anyone, but if sharing my story helps even one of you make that appointment, take that test, or talk to someone you love about doing the same, then this fight I'm in is already worth something more. As I prepare for my mastectomy, I ask every person listening today, don't wait. Don't put it off. Don't assume that feeling fine means you're in the clear. Love yourself enough to take that step. You may not be able to control what happens in your body, but you can control how prepared you are to face it. And believe me, early detection isn't just a medical decision, it's an act of courage. It's an act of love. It's a decision that could give you more days, more laughter, more memories, and more life, especially for my son. I am grateful for my support team of my parents, my mom, my partner, and my son who have been with me every step of this process. Thank you for letting me share my story, and please make that call. Getting screened, it could save your life, just like it's saving mine.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Leslie.
I'm Leslie Hunter, Executive Director of Thriving Pink, and I'm so thankful that Gina and Katie and Eleanor could stand with me tonight before you. And our message really is, if you know anyone with a breast cancer diagnosis, refer them to Thriving Pink. Our services are free, we have financial grants, and lots of support and lots of love to give. So that is our message for tonight, and thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for bringing this before us and supporting people like my daughter. There's many in the community that are needing your services and support. And I'd like to, ask my fellow council members if they have a few words. Who would like to go first?
I'll be
Councilmember
really
O'Connell.
brief. Thank you so much for being there. I can't imagine when a diagnosis comes in, some women feel very isolated and fear. And you're being there and having this outreach, I'm sure it's a great comfort. You never think it's going to happen to people that you know. When the mayor shared that her daughter had it, I always think it's something that happens with someone older, not someone so young. So I just want to say thank you for being there, women supporting women.
Thank you for being here tonight. Eleanor, thank you for being just so transparent. As we were reading, my colleagues were reading the proclamation, I had written a little note, say mammogram, and how important getting your annual check-ins. And I've seen more of my friends on social media when they go for their annual mammogram in their gown, taking pictures and posting it on social media and normalizing it. That these are conversations that we need to have. We need to be talking to our sisters, our colleagues, and make sure that everybody knows that we need to be doing our annual mammogram. And so thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for creating an incredible community and creating resources. Yolo County is absolutely blessed to have you.
Thank you guys for being here. As both my colleagues said, it's so important that we are aware that we're having these conversations. I know that when I got my first mammogram, it was actually because of my colleague here. And it was, oh my gosh, to your point, not having time or not prioritizing yourself. Oftentimes as women, we are taking care of others, whether it is our partner, whether it is our children, right? We have busy jobs and busy lives, and oftentimes we put ourselves last. And I know that I appreciate that you guys are out there making sure that we are prioritizing ourselves and that there's support and help out there. And it's so important to have these conversations. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for taking this proclamation. It's an honor to be on an all-women council, continuing to lift up these issues that really, truly matter to women and our entire society, because women are the fabric.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first off, hats off. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. We give a lot of proclamations. Some of them are a little bit, they hit a little bit differently. I was just in front of the Thriving Pink office today over in Davis on 2nd Street. I appreciate you being there and for all your hard work. There are lots of voices that are unheard in our community, people that feel unsupported. And as we all know, that is unfortunate medicine for decline and not, when you feel part of a community and you know that you're being supported, it changes the trajectory and the lens where you look at this chronic illness. Eleanor, thank you for your bravery and your courage in sharing with us. We need you to get on rooftops and to share your story, because it really does change the way we look at these issues. It really personalized it, even for me as somebody who stands with you in the same fight. Different, but same. I want to say that I'm a proud member of the city council, and I was at a city council meeting the day that I found out about my diagnosis and just was in shock and didn't know what to do about it. So you just go to a city council meeting, I guess that's what you do, right? But I will say that there was a community that stood with me and still stands with me, and I know I have a council that stands with me as well, to recognize and honor these issues that are so prevalent among women in our community. And I will say that you all know this, but breast cancer happens with men too. I mean, it's not just for women. I would say that, we all probably could say we know somebody in our lives that have been affected. Probably fewer men, but that is a very, it happens. But this is very personal to all of us. And the fact that we're talking about it really does, as my fellow council member mentioned, it's like, we need to make this a thing. Like, let's make sure that we're challenging each other to go out there and get checked, because it shouldn't be one of those things that you just take care of at the end of the year when your deductible's paid off and, oh, I have to take care of that. Oh, it's just be something we look forward to and encourage our girlfriends and friends to go out there and get checked out. Tonight is a night, not just about wearing a pink ribbon, but for honoring those fighters that came before us, those who are still surviving and those who continue to fight, and standing in solidarity with one another. May we continue to work together as we fight for a cure and continue to support those who are still battling, and stand together each year to embrace those who we can help further in this journey. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for bringing this.
Thank you, council member, and thank you, Thriving Pink and the board and my daughter for, standing before us, sharing your experiences, your courage, and continuing to, share your strength with others in need of support. It is something that we can't replace in our community. Being who we are, that caring community who, with your resources, helping those in need, who are at a loss. Sometimes there are good days where you have a whole team there to support you, and there are days when you feel alone. And it's ebbs and flows, and we know that you're there for every time. And we are so grateful that your presence is here. We look forward to shouting out from the rooftops, like you said, council member, this month especially, letting people know. So if you have any material you'd like for us to have, the city will be able to deliver it to us, and we are all out in the community in one way or another to distribute it and support your effort to get the message out of your presence and your support for people in need. So thank you so much. And we'd like to go down and take a photo at this time.
Yeah.
One. Yeah.
Okay, we're back on track with our next item on the agenda, which is our consent agenda, items 3 through 8? Count. 3 through 8. Yes. Are there any requests to move an item by any chance from anybody? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Early second. Nope.
All third.
She got before me.
And before I take a vote, Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak from the public?
We have no request to speak on any items on the consent agenda.
All right, then I'll accept a motion for items 3 through 8.
So moved.
Sorry.
second.
Okay, Councilmember Early, not, Councilmember Alcala moved and Councilmember Early seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Sorry, repeating myself here, it's a little distracting.
Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hull?
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero?
Aye, this item is approved. Next, we have a public hearing. Item number 9, and it is under our Community Development Department, which is a public hearing regarding an appeal of the Planning Commission's variance denial regarding a setback variance for an RV cover at 1512 Michigan Boulevard. And we have an attorney here present. If you can please explain your role so we, everybody in the audience understands your. We have 2 attorneys.
There you
Glad
go.
I asked.
Sorry.
You're there?
My name is Ryan Raftery, and I'm here solely for the purpose of advising the council with regard to the hearing procedural issues, not any substantive issues involving the appeal.
Thank you. Mr. Rafferty. And then we have our counsel, Jeff Mitchell, who will provide guidance on any decisions that we make on this particular item today. And at this point, Mr. Rafferty, if you have to correct me, please do. And I'll be reading the procedure. And that's, we are required to read a summary of the procedures into the record. So the following is that summary, which can also serve as a script for the hearing process. The mayor will open the hearing. The mayor will ask all members of the council to publicly announce any testimony or evidence received outside of the hearing process, also known as ex parte communication. The mayor will also ask all council members to announce any conflicts of financial interest with a material effect, and member shall disqualify him or herself. Mr. Rafferty?
Yeah.
We are missing a council member. Should I wait?
Oh,
Yes, I think I shall wait
Yeah.
until she returns.
well, I think you can actually continue to go through the procedure because then you're going to actually do the procedure.
Okay,
Does that make sense? I
That's
don't
fine.
think it'd be,
I
you
was-
had a
I was
hard
gonna-
copy of it.
I was gonna go through do both, but that's.
Oh,
okay.
you want to do both?
I
Oh,
did, but that's okay. The mayor will ask all the council members to announce any conflicts of interest with material effect, and member shall disqualify him or herself. The mayor will also ask the hearing examiner if any exhibits were received in the past 10 days that the council may want to consider admitting. And it's the council decision as to whether to accept any late exhibits. Staff will present the staff report, place relevant documents into the record, and respond to questions from the city council. Staff may present any testimony and relevant evidence not previously presented in the written report. Evidence is relevant if it proves or disproves a material fact in dispute. The mayor will specify the time the appellant has for his or her presentation and rebuttal. And Mr. Reyes will be given 20 minutes to present his appeal. No witness or witnesses will be heard at this time. All public comment testimony will be heard during the public comment testimony. period. And members of the public and/or numbers in support, individuals in support or against the appellant will be given the opportunity to present testimony. Public comment testimony will be limited to 3 minutes each person. The mayor will specify the time the appellant has for his or her response to testimony or evidence, and the appellant will be given 5 minutes to respond, but may not introduce new testimony or evidence or restate direct testimony. And that's where our city attorney will help us with that information. Staff may provide responses to testimony received during the appellant or Mr. Reyes's time and may be asked to answer questions from the city council. And the mayor will close to continue the hearing, and city council will deliberate on the matter and adopt findings if appropriate. The final decision may be deferred for preparation of a draft finding consistent with the preliminary decisions. All right. This time we should wait.
Yeah, now you have to wait because now you begin the actual hearing.
Okay. You ready to take a break? Water? All right, we will begin the hearing. At this time, I will ask the council if you have any information you received outside of the hearing process, any ex parte communications, discussions. Councilmember Alcala?
Yes, I have spoken with Mr. Reyes.
Okay.
Yes, I was contacted as a council member for District 2 for Mr. Reyes regarding this matter several months ago. The conversation was by email regarding a pre-appeal consideration for, and then we also received public comment at a previous, all of us.
That's right. And Mr. Reyes did contact me about this item before it was agendized for the public and notified me that he was preparing for this hearing and asked for favorable consideration. I informed him that given that this is a hearing, that I cannot convey any of my feedback or thoughts, and I would have to reference this at this meeting. And after that, we stopped talking. So that's where we concluded. And are there any conflicts of financial interest from any of the council members? And from the hearing examiner, are there any exhibits that were received past the 10-day due date?
No.
All right, we will have the staff present the staff report at this time. Okay, hello.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. I'm Tristan Osborne, planning manager here at the city. So we do have a presentation for you this evening, kind of outlining the facts and the background of this case. It is an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision of a denial of a variance at 1512 Michigan Boulevard. So I'll start with what is a variance. It's an exception to the zoning code or development standards. There's 4 findings that are legally required to be made, and we have to make each of those in order to be able to grant a variance. So they're typically used, they're infrequent, but they're typically used for properties that have unique features, such as topography, a boulder, a river, very steep inclines on the property where you wouldn't be able to build in the typical area, things like that. It is not intended to provide advantages over other properties in a similar neighborhood. Additionally, it is not a workaround for zoning rules. It's not to be used because codes are inconvenient, and it's definitely not a mechanism to grant a special privilege to one property owner over another. So the request from Mr. Reyes was for a variance to the Planning Commission to reduce setbacks in order to permit an unpermitted RV cover, measuring 47 by 15 feet, so about 700 square feet and change. He requested a front setback reduction from 15 to 0 feet, a side yard setback from 5 feet to 0 feet, and an increase in the maximum height of this accessory structure from 12 to 15 feet. So essentially what that means is the setbacks are a certain amount of feet from your property inwards where you can't build. And so his request was to reduce those setbacks, as we call them. The Planning Commission, after hearing the hearing, conducting the hearing, unanimously decided to deny this request for variance. Staff's recommendation this evening is to uphold that decision to deny the requested variance based on the inability to meet the required variance findings, those 4 findings I referenced earlier. When we received Mr. Reyes' appeal, there were two related primary claims that he made, which the first of which is inconsistent enforcement of setback rules. To clarify, these are codified in our municipal code. Mr. Reyes, as you'll see in our timeline, was informed of the required setbacks prior to construction of the RV cover. In terms of inconsistent enforcement, any project that comes through the city for a building permit or any sort of zoning entitlement, land use entitlement is reviewed for setback requirements, and that's done for every project that comes through our door. Related to that, the second part of his claim is that other nearby properties have been allowed to have carports. He did provide, as part of the appeal, a number of photos from the surrounding neighborhood. Unfortunately, he was not able to provide locations or addresses for these homes, which for staff, we have to take him at his word that they're there. But it does make it hard because we're not sure if those were, we'd have to speculate on how those were approved or processed or built. Could potentially be before the city was incorporated, before zone changes, that sort of thing. So you're aware our code enforcement department does, it is a complaint-based department, complaint-driven. So it's more of a reactive or responsive department. We aren't out there driving around looking for code cases. Just to do a little bit of context setting around the neighborhood, this is actually just on the other side of Jefferson. This is the surrounding residential area. You can see up in the upper right-hand corner, the pink outline is Mr. Reyes' property at the corner of Michigan Boulevard and Portsmouth. Here's a more zoomed in aerial of the property boundaries, which are the pink lines, and his home there in the middle. Here's a sketch provided by Mr. Reyes. The red is the existing RV cover. Again, the purple is the property boundaries. Here's some photos of the constructed RV cover. A couple different viewpoints for you to see. So here's our timeline. In November 2024, Mr. Reyes was at the permit counter here at City Hall, received information about zoning and building permit requirements. So on the zoning side, that would be the setbacks and the height. Building side would be the requirement for a building permit prior to constructing this RV cover. Number 2 down the bottom, January 28th, city staff received a complaint, our code enforcement department, and conducted a site visit. Did see an RV cover in construction partway through. The following day on January 29th, we issued a stop work order, which is a notice posted on the in-progress structure in this case. There's a couple photos, timestamped January 28th, 2025, and the stop work order the following day. After that, on February 14th, city staff conducted another site visit. Construction had continued, and the city issued a notice to abate. That deadline was March 18th for removal of the RV cover at Mr. Reyes's request due to some travel. City staff extended that to April 14th, at which time the structure was still, as it is today, still standing. Then in May, we issued an administrative citation, and 5 days later received a variance application, which is kind of what's before you tonight. Essentially, that went to Planning Commission, the height and setback changes. August 21st, we went to Planning Commission, as I stated, and the variance was denied 6-0. And a week later, we received the appeal from Mr. Reyes. So I keep mentioning this Planning Commission decision, the denial of the requested variance based on the inability to meet the required variance findings. So what are those? They are lengthy. They're very technical. Again, I mentioned it's a rarely used entitlement. You don't see them very often. So I will spare reading through all of these on this screen, but wanted to give you some context about what the 4 required findings are. And we, again, need to make each of these in order to be able to grant a variance. So number 1 essentially comes down to site conditions, unique site conditions. And in this case, there are no exceptional circumstances, and we don't want to grant special privilege. But it's a typical shape and dimensions, the site. It's a pretty typical corner lot, a good size, no unusual natural features. Granting the variance would give special privilege, something that no other corner lot in this neighborhood would have the ability to build in these setback areas. So this finding cannot be met. Number 2 is no physical hardship created by the applicant. So I'll read this one because it's short. The granting of the application is necessary to prevent a physical hardship which is not of the applicant's own actions or the actions of a predecessor in interest. And it's a large corner lot. There's no physical hardship that prevents development of this site. Building in this area is difficult because of our setbacks. However, that's not a physical natural feature. It's the direct result of the property owner choosing to construct the accessory structure in conflict with the municipal code and without proper building permits. So again, that finding cannot be met in staff's opinion. Finding 3 is about health, safety, and welfare, and no injury to that, as well as the kind of improvement or properties in the surrounding area. So the RV structure is not congruent with the character of the existing neighborhood, and it does obstruct visibilities for vehicles exiting from the neighboring property to the north. Those property owners did attend our Planning Commission hearing and spoke to that matter. So again, the finding cannot be met. And number 4, the granting of the variance will be consistent with the general purposes and objectives of the title, any applicable specific plans, and the general plan. It's requesting relief from the zoning code, so that obviously doesn't work. There are no specific plans in this area, but the general plan does have several key policies. So I pulled out 3 that are relevant. Crime prevention through environmental design. This leads to a lack of natural surveillance, view corridors and things. It's a large structure that does obstruct viewing. Things like this can provide shelter for people to be able to hide as folks are walking by. So we try and generally leave some space in between so people aren't, same with bushes, walls, that kind of thing, so people don't have places to hide. Neighborhood character and massing, it alters the setback norms of this neighborhood. The scale of development is not in alignment with the scale of the neighborhood, exceeding the height. It's quite a large structure again. And then pedestrian scale development, this very abrupt transition does deter walkability in terms of the sidewalk access right in front of Mr. Reyes's home. So staff does not feel that this finding can be met either. Again, a recommendation, uphold the Planning Commission decision to deny the requested variance based on the inability to meet the required variance. to answer any questions or clarification if this is the right time for that.
You could ask questions at this point if you had any specifically
Thank
about.
you. That's a good recommendation here. Any questions?
Not a question, Mayor, but will we be able to make statements later?
Sure. I think so, right?
Yeah, I think so. As part of your deliberations, I think you could
All right,
express
thank you.
in the public forum to each other
That's right.
your position or
the end.
feeling.
If you'd like to wait. If you had any.
I can wait.
I've got a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Is my mic on? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Just for clarity, the visit to the counter, was it the applicant or was it the construction company?
My understanding, it was the applicant.
Yes, Councilmember Early.
I would be helpful to also understand when it was built. Was it built by the owner? Was it built by a licensed construction company? I'm curious about that because I would have thought they would have known better.
So my understanding is Mr. Reyes hired a contractor to construct this, but as part of our email correspondence throughout these past several months, we did come across an email where the contractor did inform Mr. Reyes to reinforce that a building permit was needed prior to constructing the RV.
Okay, so the city informed, the contractor that did the work also informed. Okay.
That's correct.
Helpful.
Well, piggybacking on that, when the contractor saw the notice, did the contractor continue to build? Because it seemed like it was halfway done.
I wouldn't be able to say who continued the construction at that point, but we do know that construction of the RV cover was completed after that stop work order was posted.
Okay. We also received correspondence from the neighbors. I don't know, Mr. Hearing Examiner, were you aware of that?
I was not aware of that.
Okay. Madam Clerk, would you like to share? I can give you my copy.
Sure.
Making sure. In case anybody has any questions related to this. Great. Thank you.
Also, does Mr. Reyes have a copy of it?
Does Mr. Reyes have a copy of it? Mr. Reyes, do you have a copy? Why don't you go? It's there. It's sitting on the counter there.
I do have a question, Mayor.
This was public comment that came in after the testimony deadline.
Right, and I want everybody to be aware that we have a copy of it right here as well. That it's in front of us, and it's the transparency to make sure, given that this is a hearing. And you have a copy of it?
I have not seen it, no.
Oh, here, take mine.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll start with Councilmember Alcala.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the letters we received was from Emily Cheney, Frontier Building Products. Is she a West Sacramentan, a neighbor? Because it seems unusual that a Frontier Building Products would have any type of comment to make. Do you know if she's a neighbor?
I will say that she says we do not live in an HOA, which allows certain freedoms to maintain our private property. Still, we have concerns about our safety. It's the way that she contextualizes it. It sounds like she lives there.
I'd like to know because, I mean, she didn't put down she's a neighbor. She simply put Frontier Building Products.
I think that's where she works,
I think it's inferred.
just her job.
I just think it's what she has. I have something just added on my email about where I'm from. But
I'd really like to know where this person lives also.
Look her up.
I didn't see this until now.
Yeah,
so I didn't have the
just
chance
grabbed it
to. I
too
don't
and
think
started
anybody, as
reading
you
it,
can
no.
see, nobody else has
No.
seen it until now, including yourself, for us to give her a call and ask her where she lives. And
We are saying that she's a neighbor, so that's fine. I'm
there is a
questioning
neighbor.
that. I mean,
who
it just looks like a
There's-
company. And I was just wondering if someone solicited the company. That's why I'm asking.
There's Jody Rizzo behind that one
Yeah, I saw that one.
as well. Okay.
It should be a note, though, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a neighbor, it's public comment or that we ask for, right? Not neighbor comment. One thing I would say is that anyone traveling through the city could express their concerns if they in fact feel like, I think what this person is relaying is that they're worried about blocking oncoming traffic at the intersection that could pose a safety hazard for both vehicle and bicycle traffic. I just wanted to, for those folks that aren't here, to read it personally. I would like to ask staff if there's any, has staff raised any concerns about that being a public hazard, a potential public hazard with respect to oncoming traffic, and maybe increasing the dangerousness of that intersection, because it does appear to be a very large structure.
So one of the purposes for setbacks is to ensure that there is some sightlines, and having been out in the area and staying on the public right of way, it does appear that the structure could contribute to lack of a sightline. It may impact that
Impede
negatively.
visibility.
Mhm.
And that would include trees or any other type of obstruction that could potentially impede the viewpoint of oncoming traffic.
It could. I think it's accentuated by the fact that this is a corner lot. So you'll have people turning northbound, leading to a potential conflict if folks are backing out of it or leaving a driveway one way or another, not being able to see as you round that corner. It could.
I wanted to ask, earlier you had provided a statement regarding other potential projects that exist in the city, but you'd mentioned that there's no evidence or any record that these were existing subsequent to the incorporation of the city versus prior to the incorporation of the city. Is that fair to say?
That's one of the many factors we would need to look into.
But needless to say, as it stands today under the ordinance, have we received any other requests to build structures similar to those that have been granted within the city? To your knowledge.
I'm relatively new here, so I'd look to the rest of my team to see if there have been any approved in the past. But I do know that code enforcement has had a number of cases. We've pulled some data from the last year in terms of the number of code enforcement cases that have either been resolved or currently in progress related to accessory structures of all types. That could be carports, sheds, that sort of thing.
Now, with respect to a person who is pulling a permit to create this type of structure, is it fair to assume that the ordinance and the rules and regulations that govern the city are being applied equally with respect to the setback requirement?
Yes, it is.
And so if we are unable, at this point though, if any of the other pre-existing, is it fair to say that those may have been grandfathered in if they were pre-existing prior to any established ordinance in the city?
Yeah, that could be the case, definitely.
And just to clarify, the emails that were received for public comment, it's only that first page that deals with this particular agenda item. Just to clarify, there seems to be a secondary one. Yeah, the front and back first page. That would be the only relevant one.
Thank you. And just to clarify, we can accept this as part of our evaluation, regardless of whether or not it's a resident.
Yes, you have the power to accept any relevant evidence on the particular issue and give it the weight that you choose to give it or not give it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a few more.
Yes, Councilmember
Thank
Calla.
you. So you're saying that there's an obstruction, but is it actually the carport or is it the mobile home that is obstructing this view?
Sure, I think that
Private property.
both, sorry, what's that?
I said on private property.
Sure, yeah, so I think that the RV obviously could very well be seen as an obstruction, but the structure itself contributes as well. So you can go back to the photos, but you have these large metal beams.
So, Mr. Reyes before here at City Council, and he brought us a lot of photos of a lot of other homes that are built right up to the sidewalk. Why are we being so arbitrary about enforcement?
So to clarify, you said homes right up to the sidewalk, or
The carports.
carports?
Right,
Gotcha.
right.
And that's what I was referencing earlier. He, as part of that appeal, submitted a number of photos of carports and other similar structures close to the sidewalk. However, we haven't received code enforcement complaints, and that's how our code enforcement on the planning and building side, we typically see projects before they're constructed and help with design and ensuring they're built to code, as one says. Once structures are there, that's typically our enforcement arm that will go out and work with property owners to bring those into compliance with the code after the fact. And because this did come in as a code enforcement complaint, that's why staff has been working with Mr. Reyes to try and resolve this issue.
It just seems like the city district is similarly situated property owners. And I guess what is difficult to understand is sort of if using that rational basis test, which requires a distinction between legitimate and defensible reason. The staff identified 14 property owners, I believe, that were non-conforming with their carports. Yet the city is applying this ordinance only when a complaint is lodged, rather than enforcing it equally on all 14. So this selective enforcement is evident in Mr. Reyes's denial of his variance. And according to the staff report, this carport is said to promote crime because it interferes with natural surveillance. I think it was that finding on D. However, the same reasoning applies equally to all 13 of the non-conforming carports which remain unaddressed. If promoting crime, as it states in finding D, by obstructing natural surveillance is sufficient basis to deny Mr. Reyes, I realize there are others as well. Shouldn't the law also be enforced against the other property owners? I mean, do we have to have a complaint? Or is enforcement just arbitrary based on complaints? If the city's unwilling to use the same rationale, it seems to be singling out Mr. Reyes. He submitted those photographs, and you're saying that he didn't submit the addresses, but it's evident there are other non-conforming carports out there, and the city hasn't done anything to try and resolve that. I guess it's just really difficult to understand why we are not allowing Mr. Reyes to have this variance if we're going to allow these other carports to stand out there. I guess the point I'm making is if we grant a variance, it would certainly seem more equitable because you have 13 other houses, carports in other residences that we're not enforcing the, what did you call it? I'm sorry, the ordinance
setback.
on, yeah. And I guess I find it difficult because we just, at our last meeting, we overturned the decision by the Planning Commission. And once again, I believe one of our council members did say it was on the basis of arbitrary enforcement. I mean, how can we as a city completely look the other way when something like this is happening to one individual, but not to others. It just seems very inequitable and unfair. So how do we address that?
Sure. So a couple clarification points, if I may.
Please.
So we have this over the past year. I think we pulled September 1 to September 1. We have 26 cases of accessory structure code enforcement cases. I think 14 is probably the number you're speaking of. 14 of those have been completely corrected and closed, essentially being brought into compliance. The remaining 12 cases are in various stages of coming into compliance. So I think, is that the 14 that you were
Yes, I was.
speaking of? Okay. Some of these other carports that are out there may or may not be legal nonconforming, which essentially means grandfathered. Some of them may just be nonconforming, but we haven't done that research. If they're legal nonconforming, they don't need to be brought into compliance with the code. So that's kind of the grandfathering piece, is they were there beforehand, so they're allowed to be there because our rules have changed after the fact. In this case, our rules were in place and they were not followed. And so I think that's a distinction between the grandfathered cases in this case. And finally, just around code enforcement, again, we're in the planning division. We work with folks on the front end when they're still bare land or they're working with their zoning or what's allowed or not allowed in terms of use types. But our code enforcement division is structured as a complaint-based division, which is not unusual for cities. I understand it creates some challenges and some optics, but I think given our current staffing levels with code enforcement, and city manager's office can probably speak to this better than I can, they are complaint driven, and that's really how we manage the enforcement process.
Okay.
Yes, and just to finish that point, correct me if I'm wrong, the other carports that were noted through photos, while there were photos, they were not provided location. And so I think to get to your point, if there are complaints filed against those carports, we have a process for opening a case, investigating everything Chris said about looking at the background, and those would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. In this case, we receive photos that apparently show other carports in the city, but we don't know where they are. There were no addresses associated with them, so they are not being evaluated on that basis because there isn't a formal complaint against them.
Okay.
Just one other comment, and that is to the point of arbitrary. Case law in California is very clear. Complaint-driven enforcement is not arbitrary. Arbitrary is when you apply your rules differently in different situations. We apply the rules consistently when a complaint is made. And there's very clear case law that that is an acceptable approach. You are not required to apply every law every time. And you're not required to go out and seek out complaints or seek out situations. In fact, most communities, and historically it's been true in West Sacramento, the council does not want their code enforcement staff out spending their day driving around looking for violations of the code. And it is generally considered to be more appropriate to do it on a complaint-driven basis, given the amount of staff you have, the size of the city, and the amount of time it would take to drive around all the time, all day, looking for problems.
So when Mr. Reyes told me about this, I went around checking to see how many people had these carports. Just in my own immediate neighborhood, I think there were about 17, right up to the to the sidewalk lines. And I think that there's a real problem because these were put up. These are new structures. They're not old structures. People are using them. I mean, to protect their cars. Some people use it for outdoor furniture. So they can sit out. The weather's so hot, they need some sort of protection. Maybe at one time I can see where the ordinance had a lot of impact, but times are changing, and I just can't understand when I saw 17 of these structures. I mean, does someone have to go around reporting every single one of these structures? And then that's really going to keep our staff busy in order to maybe do the right thing, maybe change this ordinance. I mean, if you think about it, just that's my immediate neighborhood, 17. I haven't gone through the rest of West Sacramento, but I know when I've walked precincts, I've seen quite a few of these structures. Wouldn't it be, I mean, someone wanted to make a point, get these addresses and have the city really busy going after everyone who they believe and actually has non-conforming carports. I mean, what is the answer to this? Wouldn't it make more sense to change an ordinance?
I would leave the policy direction to the council to direct the city manager's office and staff if you were interested in exploring that kind of a change. I wouldn't want to speculate up here tonight.
Thank you.
You had a question?
Councilmember Early? Oh, no, you really had something to say.
Are we going to hear from Mr. Reyes?
Yes, eventually.
Okay.
We're still asking staff
Asking
questions.
questions. Okay.
Yes. So Tristan, I do disagree with the city attorney, where there have been times when there's a report made, years go by, and that person doesn't get any activity, and I find neighbors frustrated. And I do get Councilmember Alcala's point where, you know, somebody, and you have your cease and desist, and I've seen it happen selectively. I'm hearing public comment from Mr. Weaver, who referenced how sometimes it can be difficult. In this case, though, there was the applicant who, Mr. Reyes, who did try to find out. Who tried to approach this the right way. I have a question. When somebody asks the city, this is what I'm interested in doing, I'm curious to know, do they need an attorney for the outcome, or do they get some kind of guidance, any feedback about the outcome if they proceed?
Let me make sure I understand. If they proceed with construction?
So yes, Mr. Reyes proceeded with the construction, and code enforcement came in to intervene immediately, which, according to everything that you described, was all legal and above board, which I get. But when he was asking for guidance, that's when I'm finding that maybe he may not have received enough guidance. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. I'm giving you a chance to explain this situation between Mr. Reyes coming in, asking for guidance. It's a big structure, and he has this RV. He may have explained it. It was for an RV. Could there have been any other type of structure that somebody said, you know, don't do that, do this? Any kind of support that we give to our residents?
Sure. So at least in my short time here, I've seen that we have a very customer-focused approach to our front counter. I've seen my staff up there taking significant amounts of time to be patient with folks and help walk them through, which is very complicated sometimes, the zoning and the building codes and those types of things. So I think we pride ourselves in that, being accessible and helping people figure out how. You know, because a lot of times people come in, hey, I want to do this thing. And so we dig a little deeper. Hey, what are you really trying to accomplish? If it's a no, are there other ways we can help you accomplish your goals that might look a little bit differently? So again, this was before I was here, but I know that staff had a number of meetings, number of interactions with Mr. Reyes prior to construction, midway through construction, and obviously we've been communicating afterwards. And so I would feel very confident in saying that he was fully aware that within this setback, this is not a location that he could construct this type of structure, and that he needed to get a building permit prior to commencing that construction, even if it had been allowed in this particular portion of his property. The building permit process obviously is a stringent code established at the state level. We have our chief building official here this evening. Those folks need to review things like this before they're constructed, and that's really a life safety issue. Zoning oftentimes can be, you know, aesthetics, neighborhood compatibility. There is a safety component as well, of course. That's what created zoning in the first place. But So I think he was fully aware that there were kind of these two linear paths. He needed to go through the zoning piece
I see.
and get that figured out. And then he also needed to get a building permit issued prior to building.
And do we supply that in writing to the applicant?
We can. We very often will follow up with emails,
Okay.
that sort of thing. Yeah, we have a entire email inbox dedicated to inquiries just for the planning department, for the planning division, where we respond in writing to folks who have questions. We have a phone line, and then we of course have our counter that people can come in and ask questions of a live person.
And those that were able to remedy a code violation, and there was support provided, and Mr. Reyes's situation is completely different from that. There's nothing that could be done to remedy this one.
I think in Mr. Reyes's case, we would, I think his site is constrained because of some of the other features he has installed, or maybe previous owners. You know, there's a pool, there's a large home, things of that nature. It's a large structure that he was hoping to have. So I think it makes, even for a large site, it makes it constrained. In this particular instance, I don't see any, aside from removal, I wouldn't see a path forward for him, which is why we communicated that back to him in November of last year to ensure, make it clear to him, this isn't allowed from a zoning standpoint, and we're going to check setbacks as part of the building permit process as well. You need to have both of those things in place before construction.
And could he keep his RV there if he removed the structure?
Our code does allow for RV, the vehicles themselves, on residential lots with certain standards. So the lots had been created prior to, it might have been prior to incorporation. So most of our lots in the older areas of towns, that applies. There's a few requirements in terms of how many feet back it needs to be, how much, if it is for an RV, it has to be on a concrete pad, and then essentially how many square feet the pad itself can be. So there is a path for an RV to be parked on a residential property, stored there. Otherwise, folks are, of course, will often utilize RV storage facilities.
Okay. And Mr. Hearing Examiner, in case we have questions after the Mr. Reyes does his testimony, we can follow up with staff.
Yeah, the staff will actually have an opportunity after Mr. Reyes presents to address anything that he raised that was new that they haven't covered, or to reply to maybe some of the claims, and then you'll be able to ask questions at that point as well.
Okay.
So yes, to answer your question.
Thank you so much. All right, any other questions for Tristan? Okay. Thank you. Now we'll have Mr. Reyes come up to the podium, and you will be given 20 minutes to present your appeal. But we won't have any witnesses or testimony from witnesses at this time. And all public comment testimony will be heard during public comment.
Good evening, council members, mayor, buddy. I'd like to first off say I disagree with half the stuff that he just went through on this variance, and I think we'll go through that after I read my initial statement. Okay, so I offered council members a copy of this. Have you all received a copy?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, can you review what he has, see if we have it, please?
I gave her copies for each one of you.
I can-
they were
I can-
offered.
I don't know what it is.
I don't think we have
Yes,
it.
this was,
Will you accept the copy?
I think you have a copy of it. It was in, oh, not yet, no. It's it's just a written version of
What I'm
his
gonna read.
appeal and point.
Oh, it's a
So
written version of what he's going to read?
you can certainly accept that and
Okay, great, thank you, we can accept it.
Thank you.
then read along. Yep.
I think we have it, though. I don't think we have it, Mr. Reyes.
Pardon me?
We don't have it.
You don't have it?
No.
It was given to the city clerk.
Oh, okay, she'll give it to us now at this point. We'll read fast.
Thank you so much. Just along with me.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm going to say tonight. We keep talking about pictures, various carports and everything. It was my fault. I didn't submit them before the September 22nd deadline. I do have them. If you guys will allow them to view about additional carports that are similar, I have them here. So it'll answer a lot of the questions. It'll see how arbitrary the decision is here. So they're here. They can be viewed. I have the addresses. I have the addresses to them that correspond to the pictures. So, like I say, if that will also be allowed, it will kind of give you or give insight to my request.
Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor. It is within your discretion to allow it. I will say that it's unfortunate that he did not provide the addresses in advance as he was requested to do so, so the staff would have had an opportunity to look at the addresses. So it's unfortunate that you're going to present them tonight. Instead of in advance, as you were requested.
They have been submitted before. There's copies.
The addresses were not.
I got addresses now. At the time, I think they were asking. I didn't have them. So.
Can you give the thumb drive to the clerk so she can, and your time is.
Okay, so we got copies. I'll go ahead and begin. The foundation of all zoning and land use regulations is a commitment to fair and equal treatment of our property owners. Setback rules, which dictate how far a structure must be placed from property lines, have long been implemented to preserve neighborhood character, ensure safety, and maintain aesthetics. However, when the enforcement of such rules become inconsistent or arbitrary, it undermines not only the intent of the regulations, but also erodes public trust in the planning process itself. This appeal seeks to address the unfair application of setback rules considering similar structures that exist throughout the city. The City Council has the power to review, rewrite, and specify setback limits that should be worded for the real intent for enclosed structures such as garages, room additions, barns, or structures that are enclosed with walls. I believe the city's setback-related ordinances, specifically those related to auxiliary structures, are out of alignment with the needs of residents and are in need of revisions that will allow residents throughout the city of West Sacramento to fully utilize their properties while maintaining quality of life for their neighbors. I understand that building the structure would put me at odds with the city, but I felt compelled to proceed because challenging the setback ordinance will benefit not only my family, but other residents of the city who need to or have already erected similar structures. My situation began with a simple neighborhood dispute. While I understand that the city has limited code enforcement resources, the ability for city residents to invest in our properties shouldn't be determined by something as arbitrary as who our neighbors are. As I previously mentioned, there are many similar structures throughout the city. This creates an unreasonable amount of uncertainty current and future homeowners in the city. Structures that exist prior to the purchase of homes could come under scrutiny because of the way that the city reviews code violations. Homeowners who have lived with similarly constructed structures for years could be at risk of having to tear them down simply because someone new moved to the neighborhood. In a situation such as mine, I believe that the city could have worked to create a dialogue between neighbors that adequately addressed concerns over visibility without subjecting me to the full enforcement of the city's zoning code. I understand that this is specific to me at this point in time, but there are many such structures around the city that could be impacted should their neighbors choose to raise the issue. Carports and similarly purposed structures are by nature open-sided. As can be seen in the Google Street View of my home, the structure is set well back from the main travel along Michigan Avenue. The structure itself is open-sided and doesn't obstruct views any more than a fence would. As I've mentioned throughout the statement, there are many similar structures throughout the city. Revisiting the city's setback ordinance will bring these structures into compliance and allow residents throughout the city to fully utilize and enjoy their properties. I believe that the city of West Sacramento should join many other cities across the country that are revisiting restrictive zoning policies with an eye on functional, useful, sustainable development. While this specific zoning ordinance is important to me, I truly believe that taking this one small step will encourage the city to review potential other outdated or conflicting zoning ordinances. Dear members of the City Council, I respectfully request that you base your upcoming decision regarding the installation and allowance of carports and similar auxiliary structures throughout our city on the positive aspects that such an initiative brings, rather than focusing on the negative complaints voiced by a small minority. I urge you to look beyond the negative rhetoric and consider the overall positive impact that these structures will have on our city. Your leadership in this matter can help create a safer, more sustainable, and visually appealing environment to all residents. On, I believe it's page 4, I have a list of 24 addresses that correspond to the sites that will be shown.
Is this the only photo on your thumb drive?
No, I have about 24. So if we can either rotate.
I don't think you have it as a slide deck. I think you have it by picture.
They're all there. I think just the cursor, I mean, it allowed to go to the next one.
Mayor, I have a question.
Let's wait for the hearing officer. Councilmember Alcala has a question. Is this the time to ask the question?
2 quick things. One, I think we just need to stop the time
Okay.
while we figure out so he doesn't get denied time. And secondly, I think he gets to finish his presentation before we ask questions.
Yes, probably.
That's why I
Very good.
want to
Thank you.
pause it. Just so you know, the questions has no time. So how long that takes is however long you need. In other words, you can ask questions for as long as you want. It does not interfere with this time.
In correspondence with pictures, I'll read the addresses off. 701 Douglas.
Wait, one sec.
We paused the time for you, and we have a copy of it, so you don't have to read it.
Not need.
The pictures are, so you can, well, they're 24 separate documents. I think you did it 24 separate files. So we have to click on each one, so you can tell us which one this corresponds to.
So I thought with my computer, I just
That's
hit the
okay.
cursor and it would go to the next one.
That's okay. So you can just, okay, can you just let us know which one each is?
Well, I have a list. They're not listed on these, but each one of these correspond to one of the addresses I have here.
Okay. All right. And then you want us to just click through them?
Sure.
Okay.
And these are all within that 15-foot limit. I mean, they're all up next to the sidewalk. So that'll give you an idea of additional or similar carports, even if we can't see all of them. I have a listing of similar.
Jennifer, can you start the timer?
So, again, we have the addresses. The denial of the variance, can we view his variant? That was up there that he commented on.
Okay, give us a second. Is that, or you want to see the photo or the?
No, on the, I guess the last one, the four, the last four.
You just tell us where.
Right, 4 findings. Some of the ones that were up here were just, I mean, the walkability of the sidewalk. That's pretty ridiculous. There are not any walkability issues with the walking on the sidewalk next to that carpet. Being worried about people hiding this, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous too. I mean, there was quite a few things that up here that, you know, the pedestrian scale development, abrupt transition deters walkability. That's ridiculous. There's no obstruction of sidewalk for walkability. Lack of natural surveillance, of crime prevention through environment design. I mean, it just seems like they just make this stuff up. Natural surveillance, anybody could hide behind a car, anybody could hide anywhere on it. So there's a lot of these aspects for the variant denial, and he's good at what he does, but at a high level, I can see his point. I'm lower level. What I view in my neighborhood is something that I would like to have, and I see by other residents that have this, that did not require a permit, that did not have to go through a variance request, did not have to spend the money that I'm spending on all these hearings. It's unfair, it's very arbitrary that they're allowing these other people to have it, and they're targeting me, and it stemmed from a hateful neighbor that I have that complains. And that's really what it comes down to, I'm sorry to say. So they're using this as a negative way towards us to hurt me and my family. So I think it's very, very unfair that they do that with the city. We spent a lot of time on this. City staff has spent a lot of time on this. I think it should have never came here to this point. I don't know what else to say. I'm urging that the city council move forward in a positive way. Allow these carports to exist. They're new. They're becoming more common. People are buying them. The environment's getting more harsh. All we're going to see is more of these constructed. And to go in a negative way and have it affect everybody that has one, have them tear it down, it just seems really unfeasible to me. I'm not sure what else I can say. 8 minutes is still a lot of time.
You don't have to use the 8 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm sure they have a lot of questions for you.
I don't think I can. So that's about what I can say for now. So any questions?
Yes, Mr. Reyes, I think Councilmember Alcala has questions.
Okay.
The only question I had, Mr. Reyes, was if the list that you gave us of these addresses, if you were going to be showing us pictures. Because statement was made that there were no addresses whatsoever on the other people who are non-conforming. Did you have those pictures available? Did they correspond to this?
Yes. The only problem is that when I took the pictures, I didn't either rename each image with the associated address. I do have a list of the addresses, and it's eventually I could put the picture with the address. I mean, that's not a problem. The addresses, if you go and visit these addresses, you can see that, oh yeah, this is that picture. It corresponds with that. So.
And I think you brought up a very valid point, Mr. Reyes, that it was a disgruntled neighbor.
Yep.
And that to me is a real problem, because it seems to be, you were using our ordinances, our arbitrary ordinances, to pit neighbor against neighbor.
You know, I
It's
believe.
not a good environment, and it's not what I would want for our city.
I believe with the initial complaint, they had no idea what this ordinance was. I think that once they complained, the city came and says, oh, we have an ordinance for that. I think that's how it was brought into view. I think they brought this ordinance in saying, hey, you know, you're right. We do have an ordinance for that about the setback. But I think their initial complaint, it was not about the ordinance. It was not about all these other people that is listed that have these carports. It was intended for personal conflict between neighbors, and they're utilizing this to hurt me and my family. I truly feel that.
Brought up some very good points. You know, carports are being put up all over, and as long as no one complains, they continue to go up.
Seems like that's what the consensus is. If there's no complaint, you're okay with it. It's okay.
Let's say someone wanted to report all these carports. That would keep our city really busy.
Yep. So, I mean, there's no message or signing. I mean, you go to Home Depot and you want to purchase a carport and everything. There's nothing stating out there that's saying, hey, if you're planning on doing this in the city of West Sacramento and you're going to put it next to your driveway, you're not allowed to do that. Don't buy this carport because you're not allowed in the city of West Sacramento to build it next to or across your driveway. It has to be within 15 or 20 feet of it, which is going to eliminate all these people from having done that. So there's nothing out there stating or telling people that these are illegal, so to speak. So, you know, they're just doing it, and they have been doing it for years. These carports have been up there for years. So I think it's very unfair that I'm being singled out with this new construction, and because of the reason given, because of the complaint.
Any other questions to the applicant?
I do. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Reyes, for contacting us and for coming before this council to express your concerns. I actually did keep the previous packet that you provided to the council back, I believe it was in April, when you came before us. And I've read through the documents you provided, and I do see that the timeline that you provided today to us is very similar, although the one that you provided now is a little bit more exhaustive with respect to the date. One thing I did note is that there was this issue began in July of 2024 when there's an original driveway extension proposal was denied, correct?
So the total project, the project began in July of 2024. That began with the driveway extension.
Yes.
On it. So we went back and forth. Even when that started, code enforcement was there either the day of or the following day, voicing that, hey, somebody complained. You know, they don't like what you're doing there. And so I was told to go talk to the city engineers, city planners. It's when I met Candido Ramirez, and the discussion went back and forth about what I was allowed to do, what I wasn't allowed to do, and we came upon an agreement that instead of the original 16 feet I'd like to extend the driveway, we were limited to 8 feet of pave. And then the other 8 feet that I had already formed out was gravel. I could not pave that because it was going to exceed a 50% paved area in my front. So that was allowed. During that time, I believe we spoke about future plans about parking the motorhome there and eventually having a carport. So, but it was the driveway at that time. And then as time went by, I think it was right along September 27th, I have, the request for a carport was submitted. Actually, a couple months went by. I got a date, November 7th, 24. There was an email to Ms. Orozco, Karina, City Council, requesting assistance with a permit. I think you have that one. November 17th, I went into the office. I met with Elijah Ortega, and he gave me a verbal denial for a permit.
For the carport.
For the carport.
Correct. Okay.
Exactly.
So you were able to work with our city with respect to the pavement / gravel
Yes.
construction, and
Yes.
that came into compliance with the city's ordinances
Yes, it
at that
did.
time. Okay.
Yes, it
So at this juncture, you have your request on September 27th for the carport submitted to the city.
Yes.
And a couple months later, on November 17th, there was a verbal denial for the permit from
Yes.
Elijah Ortega, and that was in office, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have an email you said in December to Aaron Laurel from Councilmember Alcala, who was helping champion in this issue for you and with
Yes.
you. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And then thereafter, there was an email from our director of community development, Andrea Aus, that was directed to Councilmember Alcala, stating the reasons behind the denial that was given regarding the carport.
Yes.
Okay, that was then 2 days later, according to your timeline, Norma Alcala, city council member, stated to you to go ahead and build the carport regardless of the denial that was given to you?
During the months between September and December, I think there was correspondence going back and forth, and there was concerns about it being unfair, about the decision from the city to deny this were very unfair, since so many other people had these. So I think at that time, during the discussions, it was stated that I should go ahead and build.
It was stated by Councilmember Alcala that you should go
Yes.
ahead and build?
Let me clarify. I spoke with Aaron Laurel, and I explained to you that, and I think you remember this, I said, if you go ahead and build, remember that if someone complains, you are going to have an issue. That was the complete
okay.
statement.
I agree
That's
with
the
that.
condition,
And
though,
to
that
be
needed
clear,
be
this
met.
was after all of the counter interactions with Mr. Reyes, where he was told it was disallowed.
So this was an
It-
act at your own risk, with
It-
the condition that if someone were to complain, then in fact you would have to ameliorate the
The context of the question was, how do people get away with having these? And I explained that it's a code enforcement is a complaint-driven process. If someone complains, then we investigate. In this case, this was, as the timeline shows, this was months after staff had been working with Mr. Reyes to explain that this was disallowed. So.
Okay. So it seems that after the December 21st advisement by Councilmember Alcala to go ahead and build the carport, construction continued on January 28th, 2025 by Pacific Building.
You're misstating. I never told him to go and build. I said, if.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Alcala. I'm reading from his statement that he provided to us.
Okay,
It's
I
in front of
understand,
you.
but I'm clarifying what I said, and I think that's important.
I'm sorry, I'm reading from a paper
I know
provided
you
by
are,
Mr. Reyes.
and I understand that.
And I could miswrote that.
That's okay.
true.
I'm just trying to understand, as a council member who's making a decision here, what the full context of the scenario is.
And I think he just clarified that he may have misunderstood what was being said, because I was very clear when I made that statement, and I do have witnesses.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to dispute that. I won't
Just advisory.
Yes.
I would just ask council if they feel they have any conflicts, that they may be a witness in the matter, then that may be problematic for deciding the matter. I was unaware of the statement.
Well, I think all of us had conversations with Mr. Reyes, so I don't see where they are. Okay, these two didn't.
I
but
think that the
think-
nature and quality of the conversations might be different amongst us, that's all.
At the beginning, when we went through the conflict policy, when
Yes.
the mayor asked if there's any nature of any statements, that was the time to declare the details of the statements and conversations you've had.
I don't think that's a conflict when I'm making a statement, and I was referring to what what our Aaron Laurel had spoken with me, because I did consult with him and ask him how some people got away with putting up carports.
Okay,
So I just simply said that. I don't think that's a conflict in
I think
any way.
it's up for you all to decide amongst yourselves. I'm just saying that at the time I was unaware. It sounds like he's making you a witness based, like you are stating you have witnesses that you said this,
I'm saying
which
that
makes you
this is
a party
okay.
to the act.
All I'm saying is, Councilmember Roscoe is saying that I gave permission. I never gave permission.
No, I'm sorry, clarify that. There is a piece of paper that I'm reading from that was provided by Mr. Reyes that says December 21st, 2024, Norma Alcala, city council member, stated verbally to go ahead and build the carport. These are not my words, council member.
I understand.
So I just want to clarify that.
But because I'm clarifying, and then you continue to say, well, this is what it says.
Can
So
I
I
have
think it's
the
important to
clarification
clarify.
of what you said, and then I would like the hearing officer to give us the guidance on how to evaluate whether or not this is a conflict. I think
Okay.
there's some confusion between what council member is saying is a conflict. She says it's not, which is why she insists that she does not have a conflict. But you seem to think there's a conflict.
The reason why I seem to think there's a conflict is because he has identified her as a witness to the reasoning for why he went forward with the action. You're being, if I can just be heard, what
Yes.
your question before you is simple. What should we or should we not grant a variance into this particular case? It does not speak as to what should we change with regard to the city as a whole. We should set a new standard. That is a whole different venue and is beyond the scope of this particular hearing. Your specific question before you is, did the Planning Commission, do we reverse the Planning Commission's decision with regard to compliance or lack thereof with the ordinance? And what I'm saying is that if a appellant is you calling essentially a witness that is on the city council that is helping decide that issue, that raises a red flag as far as a conflict existing. Because he has submitted, if you accept it, a written statement where he is putting words in, wrongly or rightly, in council member Ocala's mouth as to what she told him as the basis why he moved forward. And if she starts, and this has no speaking as to what did or didn't happen. I'm just saying it gives the wrong appearance for a public hearing that Councilmember Alcala now has to defend herself and either conflict what he is saying or agree with what he is saying, thereby making her a witness, I think, in one way or the other to this, whether she wanted to be one or not. The other council members are not cited as being a basis for upon moving forward based on that conversation. They were, I think the mayor mentioned that the statement that it was, I hope you'll see things favorably for me. And she said, I'll see things as the evidence is, or whatever you said earlier. That's appropriate, and she's disclosing. There were no details about the facts, about, well, what about if we do this, or what about if we do that? That is getting more into the weeds, and that creates a red flag for a conflict to me. So that's just my opinion. Whenever the hearing officer, if I was the hearing officer and I lived within a certain jurisdiction, or I was hearing this, or I was a witness to some of this, then it would cause a problem for me, and I would remove myself from it. So let me give you a hypothetical. If my neighbor came to me and said, as a hearing officer, I don't like our neighbor over there's basketball hoop on the street. Okay, that's one of the ones we hear a lot. And I don't like that basketball hoop on the street. It blocks my parking space and everything that I like to park in. And if I told them, we'll go, what should I do about it? Well, I think you should go file a complaint, and then maybe they will remove it. And then that person appeals that removal, and they come before me, I would say to myself, I'm out. I can't do this because I had too much information in this particular case. It's not as simple as, hey, I hope you see things my way, or I'm hoping that maybe you'll give me a fair shot. Something like that, that's innocuous. But when they're getting into the details about, what do you think about if I do it this many feet or that many feet? Can I go forward on this? Let me talk to the city. It's creating you as a witness, unfortunately.
So if I repeated in context what our city manager said, so that Mr. Reyes would understand why some people have their carports up and nothing happens to them, simply because I repeated what he said. You're saying that now I'm a witness?
No, I'm saying that it's potentially a witness because he has submitted a statement where he says you told him it was okay to go forward. You've clarified that to say that is not what I said, but that is a document that he has submitted on behalf of his appeal, and that creates you as a witness. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't you.
So this
It was him.
happened December 21st, 2024. It's about 10 months ago. Okay, I just wrote this timeline just recently as I'm going through my records. I didn't record what she had said. I just remember, the best of my knowledge, stating that, you know, it was go ahead and build. So I referenced that. So she has either a clearer memory of what she had said, and I give her that. You know, I'm not going to deny what she remembers she said. I just put it into my wording as I remember it. So,
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, if I could just clarify. I have a document provided to me on April of 2025 that references, it was the third week of December 2024 that I received acknowledgement to go ahead and build from Councilmember Alcala. She also mentioned she discussed the matter with City Manager Aaron Laurel. And so I just wanted to clarify the record in that it's been reiterated twice, that it's not necessarily, and forgive me, sir, I'm not trying to make a spectacle. I just want to clarify that we have the absolute correct information before us on the record, that it wasn't just something that popped up, because it looks like there's an inaccurate.
We have just received something separate from that.
We received this in public
what
comment.
references Councilmember Alcala.
There are two.
But tonight, I think that's where the hearing officer is pointing to, and you have the same document that he gave us, and Councilmember Alcala is referenced in here as part of the documents you would like for us.
And
that alone creates the conflict, regardless of whether or not it's accurate. That's what the hearing officer is stating right now, that we have to decide whether to determine that Councilmember Alcala is conflicted out of either sitting here, taking action, or we can move forward with her sitting here.
It's just, in a public forum, it's not recommended that any party appear to be a witness or involved in a matter before that particular council, given that it's a public hearing.
Right.
And so it's standard protocols to act
and we just
with
got
caution.
This
I get that. And I understand that. That's why, as did I. And the details of it coming out, like.
And this is your direction to now at this point consider that Councilmember Alcala is conflicted out.
May have a conflict. She can state for herself, I mean, what she feels. Like I told you, I gave you my scenario that if it was me, I would remove myself from it.
I don't feel I have a conflict here.
Okay. Then you
Madam
can
Mayor.
proceed with it, or unless the council.
Well, I'm gonna look to you.
feels-
This is you. Go for it.
Okay, who's going to go first? You said
Heavy as the head.
You had a question. You said you called my name. You didn't want.
Oh, wait.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you have a question?
So it's interesting, when we started this process, is my mic on? When we started this process, I had a little note that I said, was informed prior to construction, why did you keep building? And according to this, what I'm concluding is that Councilmember Alcala told you to keep building.
yes.
So that to me, and that's the connection I'm making, that to me would be a conflict.
I'm just advising you as the hearing officer, that's why I raised it to you. Because that's what I heard too. And then it became more of a conflict when Councilmember Alcala was explaining, no, this is what I said. But he's reiterated now twice that, no, I went forward because she said it was okay. And that's different than what Councilmember Alcala says happened. And that's a conflict. And that creates you as a witness that you could in this case. And then when you're a witness to an action, you're not supposed to be hearing or voting on that action.
Or contributing verbally.
Correct. That's the, she could, as a citizen, step down and articulate, I am speaking as a citizen, not on behalf of my district or the council, and these are my feelings and my observations. I'm speaking as a neighbor. That is not generally advised is good practice, but it is allowable as long as she, like anyone else with public comment, would have the ability to come down and speak, but would not be able to sit on this matter.
So to eliminate the conflict.
Oh, it's too late.
Pardon me?
Oh, that
That ship has sailed. That ship has sailed.
Did I
I'm sorry,
change
sir.
my statement?
We can't unsee it. That's the problem.
Okay. Okay.
For the question to either hearing officer or our counsel here, should we move forward, what could be the consequences? Could this?
Excellent.
Okay. So what could be the consequences if there was a decision that was not favorable to, with Councilmember Alcala present, towards the, Mr. Reyes?
Remember, the city is in a position where they're asking you to deny his appeal. So if this council was to potentially vote to deny the appeal, the city could arguably appeal or file suit that it was not, they weren't given a fair hearing because not all the parties were impartial.
And
Does that make sense?
I'm in the unfortunate position that I'm really not supposed to be giving you advice on procedural matters. But I will say the more likely, well, the situation that from my perspective would create a greater risk is if you approve the variance on a split vote where one vote matters.
Right.
That would be the biggest concern, because if a court went to a court and a court were determined that there was bias, which is really what we're talking about, conflict in the form of bias, and the individual who a court determined was biased was the deciding vote, that's significant. If it ends up being, you end up upholding the Planning Commission's decision, I think that's less of an issue from my. But that's about as far as I'm comfortable.
If it was like a
going
3-2 vote, it would not look good.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
How are you going to vote?
No. I mean, it's
Why are you
in
asking
all
me? Have
seriously.
you decided how before this hearing is over?
Absolutely not.
Councilmember,
No.
I hope that that's not
No, I'm
the
just curious. 'cause
situation.
That's,
'cause you're
that's
asking
what we
me.
have in front of us. If
I
it's
think I'm
3-2.
waiting for the hearing to be completed
We
before I
can't even
decide to
complete it
vote.
because what we're saying is that potentially we have conflict. So if it does end up being 3-2,
I have yet to finish the hearing before I decide.
I don't even think
Madam
we
Mayor,
can
you bring
finish
up a
at
really
this
great
point.
point. That
Crazy.
I do feel my colleague came into the hearing very clearly on where she stood as we started the process.
She's sitting right there.
Yeah. Which I mean, I think is a fair conversation to have.
And I think that the appeal for the variance should be granted, because I think is once again, you know, it's been a very arbitrary enforcement. I feel that the city definitely should change this ordinance, or
A hearing officer, would you
flat
please?
across.
We need to interrupt your comments.
That's beyond the scope of the hearing. Like, I understand what you're saying. That's something that as a city council member, you can take up with the city planner and look at on a grander scale. But also just remember, you haven't heard all the evidence yet.
All right.
Because there's public comment. So you said, do you think it should be,
Decided.
that you should grant the appeal, and that you haven't heard all the evidence yet? So that kind of
That was
further,
a set of question, wasn't it?
no, that kind
Further
of,
reinforcement.
Not
that kind of reinforces my concern.
I understand that.
So I leave it up to you. I'm just trying to protect you in this city, and that's why I'm here.
That's good.
Well, so
I'm
far,
not
what I've
talking
heard,
about-
I feel, once again, I feel that it's very arbitrary in terms of enforcement.
Well, we should wait
But-
till we hear all the evidence.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
I think Council,
So we
no,
were,
Councilmember Orozco had
yes, I
many
interrupted you.
questions.
Yes, so
Like whether
proceed.
it's a conflict or not?
I think we need to decide that before moving
Isn't that what he
forward.
told us?
No, because he said He said, if the council member says it's not, then
Oh, he actually said all of us. So we are all deciding. Did I hear that wrong?
Well, it's unusual because normally in my situation, it would only be myself making that decision about myself. So it's not quite often that we have I'm not had the opportunity to sit on a panel.
Well, if it's any consolation to you, I've never had this situation come up either. So, that said, generally speaking, when the question is a conflict of interest, the individual that may or may not have a conflict is the one who makes a decision
right.
on whether or not
And
they
that's
should
where
be
you left it at.
participating. That said, if a majority of the council feels that someone should not be participating because of conflict.
That's not in the ordinance.
Yeah,
That's not written in the
We don't have a
ordinance, though.
process
Yeah.
for the council to vote to disqualify a council member from participating. The general rule would be conflicts are individual things.
Right.
If someone acts in violation of conflict of interest rules, the consequence is on them, not on the council as a whole.
Right, exactly. The consequences on them.
Sounds good. Then I'm good.
Correct.
It's not written that we take a vote to disqualify anybody here.
No, I'm not. That's
Yeah.
why I had said, I think I'm trying to assist Councilmember Alcala, actually, because I'm trying to suggest that you consider that about, I understand you don't feel there's a conflict, but
A conflict of interest is a serious matter.
Right, and
That
I'm trying to
one, as an
protect you
elected, should take into
from
consideration.
anything. So that's all. So it is you are the holder of that decision, and you can retain, if you feel it's not a conflict. I'm just saying if it gets reviewed at a future date, then not everybody would necessarily agree with that, but maybe they would.
Are we going to hear more evidence, you said?
Yeah. Well, you have questions. I think the evidence might be some more. But.
Councilmember Orozco was the one bringing up this comment. I do have another question. Regarding the conflict of interest. Under the conflict of interest, if there was nothing that happened here, for example, but there was a complaint raised against a council member separate and apart from all of this, are there consequences on that council member?
You mean like ethics complaints?
Yes,
like if somebody files it with the
exactly.
fair political,
Correct.
yeah, I think there's a required ethics training that is required. I think we all have to do it. And that's why I bring it up. It's a big part of it.
Can we just rewind a little
Yes.
bit to something that I think, Jeff, it's a nuance that I want to make sure that it's clear to the council, and I'll let Jeff explain it, but it has to do with the outcome. So,
Right. So
I'm not sure it was clear.
I may not have been clear.
Oh.
The outcome that would cause me some concern as the city attorney is if the council were to uphold the appeal, overturn the planning commission's decision, and that was done on a split vote where it was a 3-2 vote, say, where the individual that is potentially has a conflict is on the 3 side of a 3-2 vote.
Oh,
If
that's different.
if it were a 3-2 vote going the other way, it doesn't matter at that point because the individual who may have a conflict did not carry the day, right? That position did not carry the day, and there's if you vote 3-2 to uphold the planning commission, and I'm using 3-2 just because that's the only one that matters. If you were to vote 3-2 to uphold the planning commission and Mr. Reyes wanted to challenge the decision, he is not going to be successful in challenging the decision on the grounds that suddenly he says Councilmember Alcala had a conflict because she didn't vote to deny his appeal. So that's what I'm saying. The time when it would potentially matter is if you rule in his favor on a split.
But I'm advising her with regard to the other issues. There are some ethical issues that exist standalone to council members and managers and things of that nature that we have to do. That's separate. That's why I'm just trying to, as a hearing officer, advise you that That's why it's always a risk to stay in on a case that there could be a conflict. And I think the teachings are an abundance of caution. When in doubt, get out, I think is how they say it.
Remember that.
So I just leave that to you, but that is your decision and you can proceed as you wish, but so, do you feel comfortable going forward at this time?
I do.
You do, okay. So then she's made that decision and then we can resume with the hearing. So
Well,
Ms.
you're not going to raise the question that we need to ask the question?
No,
That's it.
because, no, you
Yeah,
just, you
I
answered
did.
it. No, I just wanted to make sure that
Wanna make
none of the rest of us would get in trouble.
Oh, okay.
No, it's only
We're good
the
at this
person
point.
with the conflict
Only the
holds the
person with the
conflict.
conflict.
That's
feel
it.
good then.
Councilmember Orozco, I think you were
Orozco.
asking lots of questions that I'd like for
Thank
you to
you.
finish.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I took an oath to the city, and I'm just trying to give this information before this council for a fair and non-arbitrary decision-making process. I see then where we stopped was in December of 24, where we had the discussion regarding my fellow council member, and then we have a month later, a month and a half later, or no, 1 month later, is construction begins. And then the day after construction began was a stop or work order was imposed by the city, sir. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. And there was subsequent notice to abate the construction in February.
That's correct.
And then there were further discussions and a subsequent meeting with Councilmember Alcala in April of 2025 regarding this matter, regarding a variance.
Mhm.
So another involvement by Councilmember Alcala in this process, fair to say?
Yes.
April, okay. And so then the variance was submitted by you, sir, on May 28th, 2025, according to your timeline. And Planning Commission denied that variance, and that's why we're here tonight
August
with this
21st.
appeal. Okay. Now, sir, with respect to the city ordinance that was being, I guess, recited by staff to cease and desist the construction, at any point did you cease construction?
Yes, it hasn't been touched since.
Ah, okay. And so, but at this juncture, with respect to the addresses that you provided tonight, do you have any information as to when or the timeline as to when those were constructed, or do you know
No.
whether or not
No.
they were
no.
pre-existing?
Pre-existing.
Okay. Because you had a structure previously, fair?
Yes, that's correct.
And it was a smaller structure made for smaller
That's correct.
recreational vehicles?
That's correct.
So this was just an augmentation of a current design that you had enjoyed previously
That's
on
correct.
that property?
I've had it for years, parked my truck under it. It was roughly 15 by 20 in size, it covered a good portion of the previous driveway before it was extended. So, yeah, and I never had a problem with that.
Okay, that was my next question. Has anybody ever said anything? And
No.
clearly they had not.
No.
It was only after the purchase of this Class C
The new one,
31-foot motorhome,
Exactly.
which is substantially larger perhaps than
Yes.
the other recreational vehicles,
Yes.
that we have this new set of complaints from a concerned neighbor.
That's
Okay.
correct.
But I just wanted to clarify the timeline that you were told, or at least advised, that there was an ordinance that had prohibited the construction on the
Yes.
property.
And I believe at that time it was unfair.
Uh-huh.
It was arbitrary since there were so many other people that apparently had structures, that would have violated that ordinance.
Yeah.
And they were allowed to do so.
And at any point during that time, I know Councilmember Alcala had mentioned that she had done some research on her own and counted approximately 17 different carports in the area. Did you work with Councilmember Alcala at any point during that time?
No, I don't believe so. No, I did
Okay,
not.
so her research was
All this
independent?
information came strictly by my own. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing further.
I have a question regarding the use of arbitrary and unfair, that being your point is that the point to deny the, to uphold the planning commission decision?
Being it arbitrary, I think that would be the point to not agree with the variance denial.
Okay. But I did hear your whole statement that making a decision to deny the planning commission's decision would allow for others to find a way to have, more climate-friendly housing structures.
Moving
to
forward with
keep
this.
things cool. Is there, so structures, shade structures are important. We've learned in parks, if you don't have a shade over the play
area,
the play
yeah, I
area
hear you.
that kids can burn themselves.
Mhm.
Is that, I mean, I'm trying to understand, I don't have the background on an RV because I don't own one, and
Mhm.
how does that work for an RV?
Well, it keeps it from the sun. It keeps it from deterring the paint on it. Anything that sits out in the sun, it's going to
I see.
deteriorate.
Okay. And the
Yeah,
one
I
you
just wanted
had,
to protect
one
my
you had
investment.
prior, how big was it? Or like, so is this double the size, or is this a third of the
Just
size?
about. It depended on the size of the current motorhome. I used to park a pop-up trailer there that
pop-up
fit.
trailer.
It was a pop-up trailer that the dimensions was about 15 feet long by 8 feet wide. I had a previous carport, you can call it a carport shade structure, that the dimensions were 15 wide by 20 long. That covered it. The reason being for those dimensions is the turning radius to get in and out of the driveway.
Oh,
And that's what constituted the size of this one. Because of the turning radius required, that was the dimensions that were required. That's what the dimensions of the height. I needed a 12-foot clearance to get out, which made the total 15 feet because of the way the structure had to be built. There's a 24-foot opening that I drive through, and in order to be able to house a roof on a 24-foot opening, it had to be constructed with at least that much building up on top, which raised the height level.
Because it does seem really high.
Yeah.
And you've learned this how?
Through the company that I was working with,
I see.
Pacific Metal Incorporated. They designed the plans for it. I told them what I needed as far as the specifications, as far as the width, so I can be able to maneuver the motorhome in and out of that driveway, and that's where it came to. There was about 8 feet of fence that was taken out. The opening wasn't that big to begin with. It was 8 feet shorter, so I took a section out in order to give me that clearance to drive in.
Where would you, so without the structure, your motorhome would be impacted due to the climate, is what I'm gathering. So, and you did take a look at safety precautions to get that your motorhome.
Of course
in
I
and out.
did.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
No safety concern.
Yeah. And so the hearing officer, for the decision that we need to make, is so we heard from the staff on why a variance wasn't granted, planning commission and their decision denying the variance, and then the request is for us to grant the variance. But I'm hearing that from the applicant that he's saying that the reason why he's had this code enforcement violation is because of the arbitrary and unfair targeting on his. Is that, how do we take that into consideration in this decision?
In this particular decision, your question is just merely whether or not they violated whether the commission, the planning commission itself, violated the variance orders and rules in making their particular decision. In other words, like you're hearing the appeal of the planning commission, and so the planning commission was asked to decide, should we grant a variance in this particular case? and they decided that based on the 4 prongs, no, we shouldn't, and that was their ruling. Mr. Reyes has said, I disagree with that. I think that that's incorrect, that decision. You're essentially looking at a review of the evidence and deciding whether or not a variance should be granted, whether or not that exception should be made. It's not, I mean, if you feel that the city had, I mean, it's evidence you're taking into consideration. If you feel the evidence, you can accept any evidence that's relevant. Certainly, I think it would be relevant if there was evidence that this was being done arbitrarily and unfairly.
Okay, so you could take that into consideration, especially after seeing all these other addresses and we don't know what happened.
Correct, correct, that's right.
Okay.
You could potentially take that into consideration, and I'll leave it to your counsel to make their arguments as to whether or not, you know,
Right,
there's a response to it.
Yeah, I would make 2 comments. One, I have not heard anything to indicate that he was targeted. So I have some concern with the use of that he was targeted. I don't think that's a fair statement of what happened here. The other is, remember that you have to make all 4 findings in order to grant a variance. The comments that he's making really go to the question of whether or not it would be a special privilege. And you could, that's within your discretion, to determine that it would not be a granted special privilege because there are many other carports similarly located. You also, however, have to make each of the other findings. So one of those findings is the granting of the application is necessary to prevent a physical hardship which is not of the applicant's own action or the actions of a predecessor. The reason he needs a carport there is because of the way the house was designed and the pool and the other landscape. That's a decision of his or his predecessor. This is not being imposed on him by someone else. You also have to make a determination that it's consistent with the general purpose and objectives of the zoning code and the general plan, et cetera. So you need to make each of those 4 findings. That's ultimately your call. That's what you're here for, to make the decision. But you do need to be able to make all 4.
There was no special reason other than the fact that I had the room to park it there. I had the room to cover it with structure. I had the room to do that.
Well,
So
with
I'm
all due respect,
utilizing-
with all due respect, you didn't have the room, not legally.
Okay, I'm looking at it, I had the room. I had the room to do it. It's parked there now. The structure's up. I had the room to do that. If I didn't have the room to park it there, it would have never been parked. So, like I say, at a higher level legally, I see your point, but me being lower level, I'm seeing other similar structures that are utilizing their property in that state, and I just wanted to be able to do the same thing.
So,
Okay.
unless there's any other evidence at this time that Mr. Reyes wants to present, you probably should move to your public comments, which
All
are
right.
next.
We will
That'll
move to-
give a chance for them to speak.
Great, we'll move to public comment if that's okay. At
Yeah,
this
that's
time,
fine.
nobody has
I'm
any other questions?
done.
He'll be
All right.
given an opportunity to come back up if
You'll be
there's
given an
evidence.
opportunity to
like-
come back after the public
quick.
comment.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any requests for public comment?
Yes, ma'am. Maria Grijalva?
Madam Mayor, council members, I ask you to please consider the staff report as hogwash. And the excuse that we're complaint-driven, it's hogwash. The excuse that it's not walkable, that's hogwash. If somebody wanted to deny the variance, I mean, they just made up really, really good propaganda and lies, and it doesn't look fair. It doesn't look fair because obviously he didn't do it in spite, but it was obvious that everyone else was able to put the same construction. And so he's not able to do the same construction, and so obviously he was making a very legitimate point. And so I beg you, all of you, to please consider making an exception, updating the code, which is the correct thing to do. Grant him a special privilege because, and then tell everyone going forward, hey, no more constructions. This is the rule from now on going forward. But right now, it's not fair. And right now, it's not fair to him, it's arbitrary, it's directly, and that's illegal. That's illegal. And so we've seen what how the city thinks. The city is corporate-minded. We saw what they wanted to do to the Sanchez family during the eminent domain. Could care less if it was 4 generations of a family. Who cares? And it turns out the ramp had not even been drawn, and it was just heartless. And so we saw what they did when the tiny home ordinance, a property owner had a property and she couldn't live on her property in peace because of a city ordinance that they didn't want to make, that the city didn't want to make. And then let's think of the investment that this neighbor has made. I'm very lucky. I happen to have I have one very large 36-foot barn that my house was made in the 50s, and the previous owner obviously had an RV there. And then my other driveway is really deep and long, and I'm grateful that I have shade because otherwise the car would be peeling and the sun is not good. And so please consider granting a one-time variance and a special privilege to my neighbor because it just does not seem fair, and it doesn't look good on us. And obviously the staff could really care less. All they're worried about is the bottom dollar, not about the heart and not about the person. They just care about money. Thank you.
Gloria Reyes.
My name is Gloria Reyes, and I live at 1512 Michigan Boulevard. I have lived there for 41 years. In the 41 years I have lived there, we have done major construction to our home. Not one time has there ever been a wreck on my corner. No walking on the sidewalk has never had a problem. That corner, my structure does not impede the view of any incoming or ongoing cars. I have worked with my neighbor, tried to work with my neighbor, it doesn't work. What is going on here is a dispute between 2 neighbors. It's not fair. I personally drove around part of West Sacramento. I'm the one that got all those addresses that my husband has. I personally drove around and seen how many structures are out there like mine. Since we started this, there has been 4 structures that have gone up down the street from my home, and I know they have no permits. Now, are they being asked to remove these structures because no permits, because nobody complained? I just feel it's unfair and we're being singled out. And thank you for listening to me.
Linda Paulman.
So my name's Linda, and I'm here on behalf of the Reyeses. I have been a resident in West Sacramento for over 55 years. I know that these structures that this gentleman over here was saying that may have been grandfathered in, the sport, I can witness that. I have children everywhere from Project Bright, State Streets, all the way out to Bridgeway. I noticed structures going up. I've seen structures, and I've seen the witnesses, these neighbors. I've seen them literally come over and spit on Mrs. Reyes's feet on her own driveway. I've seen the harassment. I've house sat for them. They've harassed me during that time, and I'm in their backyard. I mean, so this has just been an ongoing situation that doesn't need to be, it's terrible. It's wrong. And for people to be able to live into their house, and I have bigger concerns. We're all here fighting over structures on people's property. I have grandchildren that go over there to the charter school on Bright Avenue. Has anybody, code enforcement or anybody in the city of West Sacramento, have any concerns at all about those oak trees that are along Bright Avenue? Those trees are going to come down, kill a student, hurt people, that's bigger concerns than these people dealing with structures on people's property. And it's their own property. You know, people buy their homes. They should be able to do what they want to do. And it's city court, I understand that. But they're not hurting nobody. They want to protect their RVs. They want to protect their vehicles. They want to protect their homes. But what about other more, like those oak trees? That's my bigger concern. I'm here to speak on behalf of those my grandkids and those students over there on Bright Avenue. I'm sorry to say I got a little bit off subject, but I wanted to come here tonight to speak my concerns around those regarding those oak trees. Those oak trees are a bigger problem than anybody's structures on their property. It's really wrong. It's terrible. And I hope you can listen to what I'm saying. And maybe the code enforcement can go out there and look at those trees and see the concerns. They're going to come down and they're going to really, really kill somebody or hurt one of those students or anybody else walking or driving by. So thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry I got off of the structure on one thing or another, but I wanted to be heard about those oak trees as well. So thank you for your time.
Hannah Kush.
I'm a neighbor. I live on 59 Michigan Boulevard. And Mr. Reyes is in the middle in Michigan. And then there is, I'm kind of nervous, I can't sing so well. Then we have Portsmouth. So he's in the middle of Michigan and Portsmouth. In the next house, so he's in between my house and then I own the house in Portsmouth. So Portsmouth, it is very dangerous for people like my renter rents my house. It's very difficult to get out with the motorhome. The motorhome is an accident to happen. And there's a lot of people come from the trailer parks, come there, the traffic is heavy. So the motorhome is just a dangerous situation there. That's about all I have to say. It's just like I say, my renter says, I can't make it out of there, you know. I can get out in the street, get around the.
Just to clarify, the motorhome itself is the danger, not the structure.
Yeah, the motorhome.
Okay, thank you so much. So there's no problem with the structure?
No, the structure doesn't bother me.
Okay.
The motorhome.
Thank you. Thank you for the
You're welcome.
clarification.
Thank you.
Matt Weaver.
I want to note, I don't have a pony in this race. I don't get paid to be here. Could go home, but this stuff really interests me. It really interests me to see Mr. Reyes. I'm going to call him a hero. I know that's a big, grandiose statement, but what else was he going to do? Just cower to some bureaucrat at the front desk who said, you can't do this. You can't. That's it. We said, you can't. And I don't even know why it came up. Maybe it came up because who he had in his lawn sign for the election, and the neighbors don't like who you want to vote for. And now every time you do something, they're going to call somebody. And that's how our city gets down. You know, I remember during COVID, I had a tent in my parking lot. And someone called code enforcement because we had to do outdoor fitness under a tent. And they called code enforcement so that we could have a fire codant retardant on an outdoor tent that we were working out in our parking lot. So someone called, my neighbors called. Maybe they called because they said, I don't like Donald Trump, or I don't like Gavin Newsom, or I don't like these people. And now I got code enforcement knocking on my door saying, what are you guys doing here? That's real life. All these people, your suits, this guy gets paid to tell you how to have a forum that you guys don't know how to hold. Because you have to have a consultant, you have to have $500,000 worth of staff here to tell you how to do it. How the hell Mr. Reyes going to figure out how to do it? And to recuse one of the council members because she's got some advocacy for somebody who just can't catch a break in your bureaucratic, under-caring world. It's a matter of fact. Go do a survey. Ask people, how are we to do business with? Ask a small, not the people who pay to talk to you and go to your luncheons and sponsor you and build big structures and Ethan Conrads of the world, not those guys. Guys like Mr. Reyes. Like, seriously, this is why this stuff comes to you, because your staff and your process isn't friendly to people like Mr. Reyes. And I'm in support of the fact that he had no other way to build this but to build it and force you guys into this forum and force himself in a lion's den with all you overeducated people who do this full time so he can have a carport on his American dream. I don't have an RV. I might be a little bothered if my neighbor did something that I didn't like. And then like that, I'd get over it because we got bigger fish to fry. And if we're really going to be a community and we're really going to be neighbors and we really stand for anything, we would get deeper to the problem why you guys always have an appeal in here from your planning commission who always cancels meetings and a staff that always does things in the cloak of dark. And this is all the city's ever talking about.
We have no additional requests to speak on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for covering that. Bringing it back here, we have now the members of the public. And so we have, the appellant has 5 minutes at this time, and then we will have the staff come up after that.
Answer any other more? Yes, the staff would come up to answer any other additional questions or to respond to.
After the appellant comes up. Okay.
Correct.
You have any additional comments you'd like to make? You have 5 minutes.
Just to reiterate about what Ms. Scooch said, not a problem with the structure. You know, where did this complaint come from? Who complained about the structure? She's got a complaint about the motorhome being parked there. Motorhome's not the issue. It's the carport structure. So if that complaint, I never heard of what the actual complaint was. So I'm assuming that they had a problem, and it's been voiced up until now with the carport structure being a obstruction of view, being too big. But as you just stated, it's not the carport structure. So it's the motorhome is going to stay there, and I'm just hoping that you guys could see that the carport could stay there too. It's not harming anyone. It's not obstructing the view. We talked to her neighbor, the renter that comes out of that driveway every day. She doesn't have a problem of not being able to see the traffic. We know that. So that's all I wanted to do is comment on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And is it Tristan? You'll be coming back up here for any other questions among staff?
And an opportunity to rebut.
And an opportunity to rebut, of course. Yes. There's a lot that was said here.
I'll try and keep it brief. So just to provide some clarity, the complaint, we have our code enforcement officers here who can clarify if I get this wrong, but it was for an unpermitted structure and a structure within the setbacks. So two components to that. But kind of listening to all of this and everything we heard tonight, fighting with this thing. Really there's a couple different roles that we have here. You guys as council, as elected officials, have a policy role, to provide guidance to us on things like bringing a municipal code amendment to us. Technical staff, we have a job where we provide information to you, the applicants, the people at our front counter. We administer our processes evenly. We apply the rules. If they come through our shop, there's a permit, we look at them all the same. We kind of start with 3 main questions over in the planning world. Are you in our city? What's your zoning? And then what are your setbacks, and are there any easement places you can't build? Those are like 3 of the fundamental questions we look at anytime we look at a project. So if a project does come through, we're asking those questions. So I talked about our roles. The policy role, Councilmember Akala brought up, can we make modifications to our municipal code? We've heard that from the public. That is a direction that you guys can provide to Aaron, and we can research and bring it back to you. But that's not why we're here tonight. Tonight, we're here for a very limited scope, which is whether or not, basically the appeal of Planning Commission's decision for a variance, which has the 4 required findings. So if there are other pieces, from my standpoint, I think we have to stay with those 4 findings and the appeal process. So that's kind of the lens I'm coming at this from, provide some clarity. That's our technical role, is to provide the information to you guys as decision makers. I heard that there was some confusion from the applicant around his direction, whether he was allowed to or not. That kind of gets to the policy and the technical role. He heard very clearly from technical staff, this is not allowed, you can't do this, there's a process you would need to go through. He stated that he built it to challenge the setback ordinance. Again, that is a separate discussion topic from where we're at tonight. Ordinances are not arbitrary. Anything that comes through, we make sure that we apply it evenly. There could be some solutions for some of Mr. Reyes's concerns. The staff report states that a soft cover for his RV would be allowed. So if he has concerns about sun damage, weather damage, that may be able to be addressed through a soft cover. So I think those are the primary kind of thoughts that I had listening to all the feedback we heard tonight. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Any questions? Members? I do have a question. We just received an address list. I don't know if you had a chance to review it. That, for me, is important information for my decision here tonight. I would like to know if, there are others out there with a similar structure is being permitted. And I don't have the answer for that. If there were, because you don't know.
So I would wager that they are either unpermitted or they were in early. Because if those came in today, if they came into my staff today to review, those 3 things we'd look at. Are you in the city? What is your zoning? And what are your setbacks? That's where we would start. And so we would not process an application because building permits are routed to the planning division, primarily for us to check the zoning and setbacks. Those are the 2 key things that the planners look at. Building division gets into building codes and structures and electrical conduit, firewalls, that kind of stuff. We look at the site. But we would not, again, we apply the code evenly. So we would not say, oh, it's 5 feet in the setback, that's okay. We would tell them the same thing we told Mr. Reyes, which is the proposed location of your structure is in violation of the setback requirements. We're not saying you can't build a structure, we're saying you're in the wrong place. You have to go back and find another place to locate. Maybe you push it back. You have one of the community members here has a really deep driveway. So if she was able to go the 15 or 20 feet back or whatever her setbacks for her zone on her property are, she could build that. It's just where he constructed it is not from a zoning perspective.
Councilmember Early?
You guys can hear me in here, but they can't hear me on Zoom, whatever it is. So pre-you, a few years ago, I wanted to move my fence. Anyone who knows where I live, I have huge front yard, full of grass. And so I wanted to move it all the way out because my neighbors have a fence that's all the way out there. So I went down to the planning office and I actually met with David Tilley at the time. And I said, okay, so I've got this map, all the things. And he said, well, you can move it, but you can't move it all the way out there. You can move it only a couple feet out. And so I didn't move it because I didn't want to take the chance that I would spend a lot of money on a fence and then one of my neighbors would complain and then I'd have to pull it up and move it back. I was not a hero. I did not challenge the system. I followed the rules. And I'm curious about what is the process. Let's say if I did want to, as we heard from public comment, play the hero. How hard is it to file a complaint? Like, so we got 15, 17 addresses. I've had many, by the way. Code enforcement has been to my house several times for other things. And I abided. But how hard is it to file a complaint?
Code enforcement's here, but
I know. I was hoping you'd bring them up.
Feel free. My understanding,
Like I said, I'm familiar with them.
it is
Girl, what is happening?
because a lot of these
My
around-
neighbors. I feel him. My neighbors. I totally feel him.
A lot of code stuff can be health and safety issues. So for that reason, a lot of jurisdictions, generally, it's a pretty easy process to ensure that if there are concerns, that can be brought to the city's attention. Code enforcement officers can go out, inspect, and determine if there is, in fact, a problem or not that needs to be fixed.
Can you mind coming on down for me? Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Good evening, everybody. Yes, I'm doing good, thank you.
It's a bit of a role reversal, huh?
It is. It's Josh Hurley, I'm the code enforcement manager. Just introduce myself. But thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming down. And I kid and I don't kid at the same time. Basketball hoop, that was me. So I can't even tell you the number of times you came by. And I finally got rid of it, quite frankly, because of the issues. Again, didn't challenge the system. So we got 17 addresses, right, today. We got pictures. How hard would it be if Mr. Reyes was like, you know what, I want this to be enforced fairly? And I think what we're saying is, in order for it to be enforced fairly, we need to receive a complaint. And then once we receive a complaint, once you come into the door, then everyone is treated the same, right? In fact, it could actually be considered unfair if we just go around randomly doing things, because our system is to actually enforce it via complaint. And so we got 17 addresses. Is that considered a complaint, or what would it take? I'm just curious what my neighbors do.
My staff and I would be happy to follow up on any complaints, just like we do with every other complaint the city receives on a daily basis. And we would be happy to follow up on any of these new ones, exact same manner that we followed up on Mr. Reyes's case, as well as the other 26 cases that we had looked at over this last year from September to September that were accessory structures. So we would be happy to address, follow up.
Josh, could you outline just the process for
Thank
filing
you.
a complaint, though? Just what is the actual process for someone to file a code enforcement complaint?
What's that connect?
I wish I could run from all of them, but honestly, they can call in on our code enforcement line. They can put in a public stuff request electronically. We get a number of complaints directly to our counter. My officers are in the public eye every single day, and they get stopped and they get complaints. We hear from neighbors. We hear from everybody pretty much.
So how we have just received, right, because I think part of what Mr. Reyes and what we've heard here is potentially people aren't, right, these things are happening. And so now that they have come to our attention, I mean, even we heard Councilmember Akla, hopefully she shares some of those addresses that she saw. So now that we've heard that, is that enough, or do we need to do something else?
Absolutely. That's exactly the way we receive it.
Okay, so it's done.
Absolutely.
All right. And what I would also highlight, because we've talked about arbitrary treatment, unfair treatment, as a council member, you've been by my house. I'm not special. And I would just want to note that. So thank you guys for your hard work. Thank you for continuing to be impartial, no matter who receives the complaint. I know it's not an easy job.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hurley, I do have a question.
Sorry, absolutely.
The process is not as clear cut for me as in my experience. I have submitted, I think, a complaint, and we have had exchanges in West Sac Connect, or even I responded and said, okay, I'm gonna have to take this to the next level, because this is not response that satisfies my inquiry. And I did get a response from staff, but I still haven't found out what the outcome is to this day. I think it's probably, it was an actual fire. And I was complaining about a potential public health issue on site. Had it not been for the fire department witnessing the complaints that I've been receiving from the neighbors, I don't think anybody would have done anything. Personally, that is in my thought, that I don't think anybody would have done anything, because it's been just a number of complaints and years of complaining. And I'm not here to undress you, but I'm just going to share with you my personal experience.
And I do apologize for that. I do tell every complainant that sends a complaint to me, upfront, if they want to contact me after the fact, get additional information on how the outcome may be, as long as it's in the public records request, we are happy to provide that information. I have so many complaints on a daily basis that I would not have the time available to respond to every single one of those every single day. But if it was needed, I'd have to provide outcomes that
Sure.
would be.
I mean, I still wait for what happened. Don't get me wrong. It's always in the back of my mind what happened, only because the neighbors keep reminding me nothing's happened. That's all.
And I'll just chime in, just in kind of a little bit defense of our staff, but also just in informing the process a little bit. I think when we get code enforcement complaints, it's often the hope that there's immediate abatement and there's immediate results. I think it speaks to both the workload, but also the process involved. There's an investigative process has to be followed very closely. There's an abatement process that can take a lot of time. And so I don't know if Josh, you want to add anything about that, but it's not as simple as just receiving the complaint and doing an immediate abatement. So just like these ones tonight, you can see there's, of these various addresses, there's a story to every property, whether it preceded the history of the incorporation of the city or the ordinance and it's grandfathered somehow, or there could be other factors as well. So each one is investigated on its own circumstances, and that does take time and staff resources. So it's not always a quick process.
And to be quite honest, the number of other cases or complaints that we may have, some of those may have been already rectified. Maybe they were given a permit, maybe they were allowed due to the size, maybe they were outside of the setback. Again, those would be questions that we would look into once.
Okay. On other complaints, well, I think somebody complained about the basketball court the day after I filed to run for mayor. That basketball court was there probably 15 years. Now, I'm grateful that my neighbor was there, where I was able to call him up and say, can you speak to code enforcement, let him know, because I know it's in front of my property, but it's not my basketball court. And so he came out and talked to code enforcement and clarified that, hauled it away. But that was, yes, when somebody senses that they're being condemned because it's related to an election. I mean, I think I've witnessed it firsthand in this last election as well, from other people who received code enforcement complaints after an incident related to election activity. So I do believe those happen, as I personally experienced. Does it weigh into, based on what I'm hearing here, about that's why I asked the question about arbitrary and unfair. And your actions and how you approach a situation for any elected, it's in our memory on how we decide here today. This is where we end up having to, hear the evidence here and then compare it to what our experience is, and then, weigh into what the decision will be. But I just, your role in the community is pretty significant. It's not the friendliest, it's not the easiest, but it is an important role for health and safety reasons, which is why I bring it up.
I'm going to address that. I think I heard a question. I just want to be very clear. We are a professional, ethical staff. We follow our codes to the letter of the law. There is no bias. There is no targeting. There is nothing that happens based on politics. Code enforcement in particular is a complaint-driven process. If we receive a complaint, we follow up on it. It doesn't matter if it's a zoning violation or whatever the case may be. Our staff does everything based on what the code says, not based on who's involved. I want to be very clear about that.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so we just received a list of 24 properties that appear to be non-conforming. Well, are you going to investigate these? No, some of these appear to be non-conforming. So are you going to investigate all these 24 because you've been informed Or do you have to receive
We are happy
complaints on them?
I am happy to address any complaints that my office gets on any given day.
So I guess what I'm asking, does someone have to complain? Or since you've received this list, you have knowledge of them, are you going to go?
Does
and
somebody have to
investigate
complain?
these?
I think that's the city attorney, city manager's question.
If the information that was provided tonight constitutes a complaint according to our code enforcement process, then the answer is yes.
So these 24 would qualify as complaints.
All right,
Sorry, I
who's
don't mean to
lodging the
pause. I
formal
just was
complaint?
making sure, like I've said already, we would treat those.
All right, I think, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, Tristan, I'm still not clear on whether these other properties have been cleared. And you kind of got a response like they probably, I mean, I don't know if they're permitted or not, or it's hard for me to see some properties with this structure, with the similar looking structure and making a decision here tonight. I just, that's where I'm struggling. If we can have more time and postpone a decision until we get some more feedback from you.
So I think, and I don't mean to, sorry if I inadvertently dodged the question, but these 17 other properties, those will each have to be evaluated on their own merits. So usually what happens, just kind of peel back the curtain a little bit, Josh's group goes out, they get a complaint, they go out, they check it out, they take some photos. Hey, it's not meeting the current code. And then we go on a little history research project back at City Hall. So a lot of times with planning, so we go look, okay, are there any permits from the past? Going back years, maybe they're before David Tilley, maybe there was a planning guy here and he signed off on stuff not knowing, or someone made a mistake, or it was before the city was incorporated. So we look at each of those individual properties and look at, okay, are they in the city? What's their zoning? What's their setback? Setbacks vary a little bit. So we kind of measure on a mapping program and we say, okay, this garage carport structure appears to be in or out of the setback. Okay, we go to aerial imagery and we start going back in time. Google Earth, you can go and you go to 2021 and 2015, and then you find a 1995 aerial. There's no carport. Okay, so that means it's been built since 1995. So we go on this fairly robust research project for each of these to determine, are they legal nonconforming or are they nonconforming? Legal nonconforming means they don't meet our current code, but they were somehow authorized or approved in the past, whether that was before the city was in existence, or they got a permit under a different code or something before the code changed. Those are your legal nonconforming. They're okay. Our nonconforming means they do not meet code. They weren't permitted some way. They weren't constructed in the manner they should be. And that's when Josh's group goes back out, says, sir, madam, you have a structure that's out of compliance. You don't have any permits for it. Here's your path to compliance. So those are kind of, and that's why it's hard to say, as a group, are these legal nonconforming or not, because each one's going to have a different story. Does that help with?
Yeah, it does. It's just, I just don't know, I guess your first answer was if it was allowable, you would have gone through the process, just like you have with Mr. Reyes, and decided to proceed or not. You're going to be consistent with everybody.
Yes.
And if these are not permitted appropriately, then you're going to go and rectify the situation.
Correct.
And today, our decision is to make the right decision, or not the right, sorry. I take that back. To make the decision according to those 4 things and we have the choice to then decide not to take that into consideration today, if that was our choice.
So I would say 2 things. The the choice today is about a variance. Most of those other cases more than likely will not have a variance component. That's something Mr. Reyes pursued as an option to come into compliance after the fact. Other folks could theoretically do that, but typically once we explain to a homeowner or a resident or a business, whatever the code enforcement case is, they find other ways to get into compliance. So how we treat those other 17 might be a different approval or regulatory process or framework than we're going through here today, which is the variance process, which is very limited in scope. And I'd say our help here can help explain what that scope is and kind of the bounds of what is legally allowed to be considered for the purposes of the variance and what is kind of other factors that are floating around or orbiting that may not actually be able to be incorporated into the legal findings that are required for a variance.
You're looking that way for some reason.
I was seeing if you had anything to add or if that was.
I'm not actually, though. It would be to your right because he would be advocating. My role is just like whose turn is it to speak and is it proper for this and that.
I do have another question. If you take a look at more closely the 17 and you find out, okay, they're all non-compliant, we're going to go and remedy the situation. That makes the decision today consistent if we decided to uphold, Planning Commission recommendation, because you're going to go back to the 17. That's why the council member is asking the question. You're going to go back and make sure that everybody is compliant. Nobody will be a hero. That's where we all land today. But if we decide that we wanted to amend, which is our authority, which we can, would we need to make a decision today? Could we postpone the decision for Mr. Reyes like we did for the tiny home? Because she was able to stay and continue, and then she's received the authority to be able to do what she needs to do to maintain the tiny home. Could we postpone the decision so that if we decided that we wanted to amend the variance codes here?
So, sorry, more clarification. This stuff is not simple. You guys, of course, have the purview, as far as I'm aware, to continue the item to another date. In terms of amending the variance findings, those are established in government code, in state government code.
I see.
The impact of the 17 should have no bearing on the decision on the variance today and the four findings for the variance. So whether the 17 are all in compliance or none of them are in compliance, that shouldn't have a bearing on whether or not the variance findings for 1512 Michigan Boulevard can or cannot be made.
The variance is state law?
The findings are based on
It's a
state law.
combination of state law and your local ordinance. I think maybe, Mayor, what you're asking is there a scenario under which the council could say, we're going to continue this to a date uncertain? We're going to ask staff to bring us back to look at the question of whatever it would be, changing setback requirements, carving out exceptions for carports, realizing that the changes that you're talking about would likely be citywide, not statewide, citywide changes. And so that's not the sort of thing that happens overnight. But if that was, and you can't make a decision to amend the code tonight.
Right, we can't.
But you could, you would be able to put a pause on this particular item and direct staff to come back and report back on whether there are changes or how they would change the code.
May I add one
Sorry,
other
who's going
factor
next?
to consider?
Sure.
So we've been talking primarily about the kind of the zoning hand of this, the setbacks, how far away from the sidewalk things are built, how tall they are. This is also a structure that has not gone through building permit review. And I touched on this earlier. Those are the folks who look at the structural integrity, who look at the life safety stuff. Seeing if Roxana's still here. I think she's back there.
She's not.
Okay.
Oh.
So
I haven't seen Roxana. Was she here?
I thought I
No.
saw her walking. So it's a large structure. And so I think that's one more piece to consider if you're looking at kind of the temporal nature of this. Are we extending it out, kind of taking a pause on the hearing process and procedure? I'm not an engineer by any means. I have no idea if this thing is really structurally sound or if a big gust of wind, pieces start flying. I'm not sure, but I think that that's something that you all might want to consider, is this has not even been looked at by the building.
Yeah, for that and several other reasons, we wouldn't recommend some sort of continuance of this particular item based on some future look at a code change, nor would we likely be in a position to recommend that sort of code change. I mean, building setbacks are kind of fundamental parts of zoning. There's the case that's made about, it's a structure that it's transparent, you can see through a wall, but it's for the purpose of parking a recreational vehicle that is not transparent. So I think there's reasons why these codes exist. It would be a significant departure from that, so it would need to be council direction to, and I would recommend doing that separately from tonight. If you wanted us to look at wholesale changes to our zoning code on setbacks, that would be a major policy decision the council would need to take up through its normal process for bringing items forward at future meetings. I would not tie the two together tonight for the reasons that Tristan just stated, and then some.
Okay. No other questions?
Thank
Well, thank you.
Yes, there is.
Yes, Councilmember.
When is the last time this ordinance was amended or reviewed?
So the setbacks are part of our zoning code, which is a part of the larger municipal code. So we update, we have the omnibus updates that come to you guys every year, multiple times a year. I don't know offhand how recently the setbacks section was amended. I want to say 2019, but I'm getting head nods. So 6 years ago.
How does the city of West Sacramento's ordinances related to setback compare to those in other municipalities statewide?
In my experience in the jurisdictions I've worked in, they're fairly typical. 5-foot side setbacks is pretty standard. Suburban areas, 15, 20 feet for a front setback is pretty typical. It changes depending on the type of neighborhood. So a neighborhood like Washington, you're going to have smaller front setbacks, meaning you can build closer to the sidewalk. You see a walk-up townhouse, that kind of thing. They might have a 0 or 5-foot front setback for the primary structure. Obviously, if you have a primary structure right up to the sidewalk, there's not room for an accessory structure, and so that's why you often see them in backyards and that sort of thing. So,
if this council were to make a decision based on the testimony and the evidence provided in this hearing this evening, that ignored the statewide requirements, or I guess guidelines for setback, what would be the city's exposure should we make a decision that wasn't compliant with the 4-factor requirement to have this variance? What's the city's exposure, if any?
I would defer to legal on our exposure, but I would say, at least as city staff on the technical side, our job, when there's a law, whether it be local, state, federal, if there's a law, we need to abide by it, and that's our duty to uphold that, and not actively choose. Of course, things over time, inadvertent things, mistakes happen. Of course, people are people, but as staff, we are not able to go out of our way to implement a law incorrectly or act in an illegal manner, which this would be.
It would be illegal?
Yes, if we made findings that were not
I'm going to hesitate to use the word illegal. I'm going to say there are findings that need to be made. There is a discretionary component to making findings. You need to be able to articulate why those findings can be made. It is a state law, so we're not just operating in the universe of the city's own code. If you were to overturn the Planning Commission's decision, in theory, that decision of yours could be challenged in court. the party that complained or someone else could file a lawsuit to challenge your decision to approve the variance on the grounds that you did not follow state law nor your own code. And then that's would be decided by a court.
Much better response from Jeff. Thank you for that.
I would.
Almost like he's a lawyer.
Weird.
I would understand that as a theoretical, but I still haven't heard for sure this is state law.
This is for sure state law.
Okay, so you are, because I asked that
Absolutely,
question
absolutely,
earlier, and
yeah.
that's not the answer I received.
No, the staff report cites the code section.
For
and it
state
is
law. So we, in order for us to fulfill state law, we would uphold the planning commission decision.
That's staff's recommendation. It is your decision to make. If you believe you can make the findings to grant a
Right.
variance, staff has recommended that in their opinion, they cannot, you cannot. That's their judgment. Their recommendation to you is the findings cannot be made.
Thank you, Tristan.
But it's in front of you right now because it's your decision to make.
Can you go over that state law component that we're trying to, just Councilmember Orozco brought it up. Can you make sure you help us understand that?
Yeah, so variances are a type of entitlement. I may need to lean on Jeff at some point, but they're a type of entitlement, which is a land use approval that is specified in the government code. There's a section devoted to planning and land use. And that's where this language comes from. These 4 findings come from that. A lot of times what cities will do is they will take state code language and copy paste it right into your local ordinance. And I think that is what Jeff was getting at is it's mirrored in our local code, but its parent is the state government code.
Okay.
Is that what you were looking for?
Yes, I just didn't hear this when I was trying to find out here in the decision that we're making that this is state law, that we're trying to be in compliance with state law, and then I didn't get that response. I was just confused. And now I heard
Sorry
that.
about that. Yeah, it's local zoning code, but the entitlement path he's seeking is grounded in state law in order to implement.
Government Code Section 65906, which says variances from the terms of a zoning ordinance shall be granted only when, because of special circumstances applicable to the property, including size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, the strict application of the zoning code deprives such property of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity and under identical zoning classification. Any variance shall be subject to such conditions as will assure that, et cetera, et cetera. A variance shall not be granted for a parcel of property which authorizes a use or activity that is not otherwise expressly authorized. So, there are other provisions in this particular section, but the core and what your code does, which every code does, takes the statute and then puts it into a more digestible set of findings, in this case 4 findings, that the council, in approving the zoning code, determined were the appropriate findings to make grant a variance. The genesis is 65906 of the government, and then as interpreted by the council when it adopted the zoning code and identified the process for approving a variance.
Mayor, I do have a question.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you. So if I'd like to direct this to our attorney, Mr. Mitchell. So I looked at the alternatives. One is to find the city council can make a variance findings, provide staff specific findings, and direct staff to return to the city council at a later date with findings to overturn the planning commission's decision. You said that we couldn't put this off, but is that not one of the alternatives?
Well, these are alternatives that staff has identified. If you are comfortable that you can make the findings, we would typically ask you to articulate specifically how the findings can be made. The reason it's written this way, similar to the way your appeal process is written, you have an option of making a tentative conclusion and asking staff, together with me, together with Mr. Raftery, to prepare findings for you based on what you've articulated, and then bring them back and approve them at a subsequent meeting.
Okay, I know I had already addressed D.
The difference, just so it's clear, the difference in upholding planning commission and deny or reversing it, the resolution that's in your packet supports upholding the planning commission's decision. So the findings are spelled out in that resolution. We don't have an alternate resolution that is making findings to
Right,
support.
we don't. Okay. Anything else?
It's just, it's in the staff report under the analysis section that was provided to us that this was, that the basis for approving the variance set forth Government Code 5906.
So that's why you raised the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I don't think we have anything else to do, Mr. Hearing Officer, that we need to take into consideration after this. We can now, want to make sure that City Council will deliberate in the matter and adopt findings if appropriate, so we close everything now and bring it back to council.
That's correct. At
Okay.
this time, if all the evidence, if both sides have submitted all the evidence, which appears they have,
Yes.
and you've accepted it into evidence, then yes, you would just close the hearing and then deliberate.
Sounds good. Okay. Any other thoughts, or do you want to just call the question and vote?
Happily call the question.
There we are.
I think we would be looking for a motion, either the recommended action, which is to adopt Resolution 25-103, denying the requested appeal and confirming the Planning Commission's decision to deny the variance, or an alternative motion.
And what does council decide to do here?
I'll make a motion to deny the requested appeal.
May I suggest that the motion be, you move the recommended action?
I move the recommended action.
Okay, Madam Clerk, Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio moved and Councilmember Orozco seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmember
Is
Acala?
there any further discussion before we take?
No, I asked that several times before she called the question. Right? You wanted to take a vote.
I thought there was, sorry, I thought this was a matter of further questions or evidence to be put in the record and not
No.
discussion.
We can rescind if you'd like to
I'm
pull your
if we want to
motion.
deliberate. I can
And then
pull the motion.
deliberate. Yes. Why don't we go
Okay.
ahead and deliberate?
I would like.
Oh,
Thank
sure.
you, Madam Mayor.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I just want to put on the record here tonight that this has been a lengthy hearing with a lot of competing perspectives, and it is a complex matter that's a variety of arguments on either side that we all have to consider as council members in a quasi-judicial role tonight. I want to commend the appellant for coming before us and pursuing the matter that's so near and dear to his home and his family, and for the investment that you've made in this community, both as a long-term member that doesn't go unnoticed. I think that we stand, as people that share the city with you, but I think I speak for all of us when I say that you predated our employ here as residents, or residents. The passion and emotion that's been communicated to this council can't go unnoticed. And frankly, this is a very difficult matter. And I think that there's evidence in this record that exceeds what is necessary to make this decision. It's now, unfortunately, or fortunately, whatnot, it's been personalized. It involves identities and personalities that I, as a quasi-judicial officer, am not to consider. Today, the staff recommendation reflects the position that's based on state law, and that's something that I reviewed when preparing for tonight's hearing. I do not make the law. As a 20-year plus prosecutor, I took a duty to follow and uphold the law. I took an oath as a city council member 9 years ago to do the same, and I've done so 3 times. I don't make policy in my courtroom, and I'll share that with you personally, that there are rules that I don't like. There are cases that, due to improperly written laws by the state legislature, they lead to perverse outcomes that I'm not happy with. There have been times that I wish the laws were changed, or that I've completed a trial or worked on a case that sat in conflict with me and it caused me undue hardship personally. However, when I enter the position in the courtroom, or in this case and in this role, I have to take a role as a council member to follow the established rules and not be personally involved. I don't believe that it's fair to apply rules on a case-by-case basis unless there are certain thresholds that are met. And in this case, the thresholds have been provided to us that we look at the law and base those decisions not about whether or not we love the applicant or don't like the applicant or whether or not they had wrong yard signs. I don't know anything about that. All I know is that I have to follow the ordinances here that have been established that we are all supposed to follow in the city, or else chaos will ensue. And so those ordinances were established. That's why I asked the question, when were these established for us? And they were established through state and then trickled down to us to promote health and safety and welfare of the community. They are supposed to be a reflection of the collective vision and values and long-term planning of the city. And they're supposed to ensure fairness and predictability and transparency in governments. Whether or not they're applied the same way, that's another question, because obviously we're talking about that tonight, that they're not, right? But we can't, from this dais, arbitrarily just grant variances that don't meet the threshold that are required for us to follow, because I think that would undermine the integrity of the framework and set problematic precedences that then we can't regulate whatsoever. And so, with that said, I mean, I've sat on this dais for many, many years. I've sat with, banning smoking on city property, banning the flavored tobacco ban, flavored tobacco in stores. Nobody's happy. There's always a group of people that feel that they were unjustly treated. But tonight, the job before this council isn't to decide how important this is or how much we like the project or how much we dislike the project. That's not before me tonight. It's just a matter of, without personal bias and based on the information provided tonight, whether the Planning Commission made a decision that was an error because of based on a review of the factors. And I have to maintain a disciplined approach based on the policies that we have before us. As a prosecutor, I have heard the argument that, the law wasn't being applied appropriately. That person got a ticket, I did, or didn't get a ticket, I did, or vice versa. But that doesn't mean the officers don't go out and still enforce the law because it's unequally applied. Unfortunately, that's the unfortunate circumstances of the society that we live in. But we can't excuse the non-compliance of a single subject that disobeyed the ordinances or the law because they're pointing the finger saying you didn't get the other guy. And I've been a victim of that myself. And so I will say, in full disclosure, I am an owner of several recreational vehicles over the years that have increased in size, because that's how it goes with recreational vehicles. You just keep buying up, okay? And I live on a street where I have a long driveway and that RV fits. But because I know it does block the the eyesight for my neighbors to pull out safely onto our busy street, I don't park it there. I actually pay exorbitant amounts of money, unfortunately, to the detriment of our own family, to have it in a space that, it's in a lot with a whole bunch of other RVs, and I hate paying it every month, but I have to do it out of respect for the ordinances in my community and then my neighbors as well, right? I mean, otherwise I shouldn't. It's my choice to own the RV, and I wish I could say I own my home too. And I wish I could say I'll do whatever I want with my property because it's my property. But out of respect for the laws that are imposed that should apply to everyone, I don't. And so I just will say that, there are carports in my neighborhood as well. And I self-select the opportunity to follow this out of respect for and courtesy of my neighbors, again, regardless of whether or not my neighbors are rational or otherwise. And I'm listening about whether or not the city is in a precarious position, whether or not we undermine the decision of this planning commission, whether or not allowing an unpermitted structure to remain standing and kicking the can down the road to make a decision later. I just think that we're in a very unfortunate set of circumstances, and I do think that we can look at the law down the road if that in fact is found to be completely unjust, but it sounds like we're in compliance with state law. So with that, that's the reason that I seconded the motion based on my duty as an elected official to follow the ordinances that have been established, whether or not I agree with.
Thank you, Councilmember.
So
Yes,
I do
Councilmember.
want to make a comment. At our last meeting, we granted an appeal. We overturned a planning commission recommendation and staff recommendation. It was unanimous. So I can't understand. I mean, one of the things we talked about was the arbitrary nature of the way certain ordinances are followed or not followed. And we all unanimously agreed that where there is this arbitrary and quite honestly unequal application, this is not something that we as a council could go and approve. So that's one of the reasons we all unanimously decided to grant the appeal. And we went against the rules. We went against recommendations by staff and the planning commission. I just can't understand why in this matter we can't see the same type of I'm going to say injustice, inequity that we saw in the previous matter. I don't know, maybe Mr. Weaver made a point, you know? Maybe some of us have certain interests or friendships with the last appellant. I don't know, but it certainly appears that way from a public perspective that I've heard here. And I, for one, will be voting to support the appeal.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I don't want to do a cross argument whatsoever. I just want to put on something on the record.
Oh, sure.
I've got some. I don't want to address any substantiated allegations that have no bearing in fact. I will say that we can't just assume that these appeals are all apples to apples. There were certain facts, distinguished facts and distinctions that apply in particular cases that aren't the same as the one we're facing today. And so these blanket statements are unfortunate and represent or falsely represent certain facts that aren't in evidence before us tonight. And there is no personality, from my perspective, I'll reiterate, there is not a personality situation at stake here. We are free to disagree on all of this, is how we have a healthy discussion and discourse on this dais. But my decision is based on the facts and the law as I see it tonight for us.
Yeah,
Mayor Pro
Thank you.
Tem, sure.
Yeah, so the word arbitrary has been thrown out a lot tonight, and I'm not an attorney, so I looked it up. I Googled it. Based on random choice or personal whim rather than any reason or system. Our code is the system, and this structure does not meet code. We have several new addresses that have been submitted to us, and they will be going through the same exact code enforcement process. And they will be deemed either in compliance or not in compliance. And the same structure, the same pathway that we've been going on through this will happen to those structures too. So I don't think this is arbitrary. I think granting a variance just because it's there is arbitrary. We should be sticking to what our code enforcement is. These codes exist for a reason, and we would not be doing our job as good governing policymakers if we granted a variance because it was built or because it was okay or because it just felt right. And so I don't think this is arbitrary at all. And so that's why I moved the motion forward, denying the appeal.
Oh, she said it. Okay, there we have it. since we're all giving comments, I do take into consideration each appeal separately and based on its merit, and decide according to, what's before us. In the last appeal, I don't think this ever showed up as an appeal for the tiny homes. I think the staff found an opportunity to work that out and had conversations with council, so we never reached that point. But in the last appeal, I think it was council discretion to reverse the planning commission's decision. And that is the council's discretion. But in this case, it is state law. And that is the difference and distinction for me. That's why I kept asking the question. And I did read it as state law, but do we have to fulfill that, and could we find a way to modify it? It doesn't seem to me that we can modify the variance to meet and allow for this structure to continue. And it then falls on the city to be held liable if we make a decision to approve approve the appeal and deny what the planning commission decided. That's my concern. I think as an elected official, we are entrusted with making sure we make those decisions. I did want to sidebar what the city manager's comment was to me about staff. It wasn't directed to staff about the integrity of the code enforcement work. It was directed to those calling on code enforcement during those periods of time in retaliation, and then code enforcement is doing their job. That was, I just wanted to correct that for the record, Mr. City Manager. I wasn't saying staff is not doing their work, and I just wanted to make sure you understand that I have applauded staff and everything they've done in their work. Because I probably didn't appreciate that reflection, but I'm just putting that back out there. So with that, I know that in this case, what happened was a misunderstanding, Mr. Reyes, and I'm really sorry that when you reached out to Councilmember Alcala, because you have a connection, you also reached out to Councilmember Orozco during that period of time, I think. And that's what happened.
Yes, but I want to clarify for the record, there was no further discussion.
Right, there wasn't, yeah. And I'm sorry that you misunderstood and moved forward. It seems clear to me that you felt you could move forward based on that. Yeah. And unfortunately, I think the staff was trying to direct you, and we always try to run interference when we have somebody approaching us. It's natural. That's what we are filling in for. We always try to work something out. And if, gosh, I hope I don't put it, I'm not put in a situation where it's not like, I don't think Councilmember Alcala was misleading you. I think she was giving some thoughts, and I'm really sorry this happened and you moved forward because the consequences are pretty significant. And I am really sorry that happened. And so I think making sure that I stick to what I have to do here. I was a planning commissioner. This is the training we received, is making sure the decisions we make are based on findings. We were given very limited scope on what we can decide on sometimes. Sometimes we try to veer off, but we're brought back on what our scope is. I have the same feeling here. This is our scope. This is what we have to make a decision. We don't have the latitude. I've kept asking the question, do we have the latitude to make any, to refine this policy? We don't, and that's unfortunate. Could we go in and change state law? That could be a possibility for the future, which I'm happy to consider, so that, we have what we hear from Mr. Weaver, that, there are people that do go through bad experiences, and we can have our representatives amend state law so that we can have the flexibility at our levels, but sometimes we don't have the flexibility, and we have to fulfill that. Otherwise, the city is responsible to be in violation of that. And so that's why we have a lot of, codes and things like that. And we will keep an eye out for those that are in violation out there, because it's now on your radar. And we'll see where we're at with everybody else. And staff, I'm sure, are going to be looking at the research. And if you'd like to make sure that that's followed up with, please feel free to reach out to any one of us or staff to see what the situation and that outcome is. And these are my recommendations for moving forward to see what we can do to address your situation where you have, you would like a structure to protect your vehicle. And those are my comments. Any other comments? Is council ready to take a vote on this? Just want to make sure everybody nods their head. I don't have anybody saying no again. All right. Okay.
So I will go again. I will move the recommended action.
Madam Clerk, Mayor Pro Tem Verna Sulpicio moved and Councilmember Orozco seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Ocala?
No.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco? Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hull?
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero?
Aye. Next is item 10 under Parks and Recreation is a public hearing and consideration of adoption of Resolution 25-99, amending the book of fees for the Parks and Recreation Department and adoption of the cost recovery policy for Parks and Recreation fees. And our Parks Director, Kate Smith, please come on up.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. I'm Kate Smith, Director of Parks and Recreation. And your second favorite topic is cost recovery, I know, so bear with me here. I do have a presentation that hopefully the city clerk can pull up on the screen for us. All right, well, while she's pulling that up, tonight I am conducting a public hearing. That's not the title slide, but that's okay. We'll go with that. Presenting the annual update to the Parks and Recreation Book of Fees and your consideration of adoption of the cost recovery policy, excuse me, for the Parks and Recreation Department. Pursuant to Government Code Section 66018, a public hearing is required by law to adopt fees by a resolution. These updates ensure we recover an appropriate portion of costs for recreation programs and facilities while keeping services accessible to the community. I have prepared a presentation for you tonight to walk you through the items that will be included in the public hearing. That's fine. Okay, so for this evening, staff respectfully recommends that the City Council conducts a public hearing regarding the proposed revisions to the Book of Fees, adopt Resolution 2599, amending the Book of Fees for the Parks and Recreation Department, adopt the cost recovery policy for the Parks and Recreation fees, and authorize the city manager to amend the cost recovery policy as needed. So a quick background for you all. The comprehensive look at our Book of Fees has not been done for over 10 years. This information was presented to you all at a City Council workshop in August. We also discussed at that time minimum wage and operational costs have increased. There is an outdated cost recovery methodology that only included direct costs, which we had discussed. And then we did work with the consultant who provided us a framework, which I will review as well. And that framework and methodology is able to include both indirect and direct costs. So the framework that we reviewed last time at the workshop, again, as a review, that bottom left corner there prioritizes what we are defining as the common good, so community-wide interest, universal access for all, and prioritizes a high subsidy or low cost recovery. So for example, a 0% cost recovery would be our parks, considered open access activities, and then you work your way up that framework to the top right, which is closer to 100% cost recovery for sales, and rentals would be the second highest. We did receive City Council feedback, and the feedback that we received included financial assistance options, so that is something that we made sure to include. You all also wanted to see a list of fees that compared our current pricing to proposed pricing, which is in your packet, attachment number 4. And then we also discussed utilizing market rates if we ever found ourselves in a situation where we were unable to meet the cost recovery goal and we were pricing ourselves out of the market. A decision would be made to bring that price down to make sure that we could still be within the market and afford that program, or that program remained affordable for our community. And you also provided consent on fee adjustments as well. Those fee adjustments are outlined in the policy, and those include items such as multi-sibling discount, resident pricing versus non-resident pricing, promotional fees, as well as prorating any sort of program. So again, in review, the proposed policy that you all are being asked to approve tonight, consider for adoption, includes our service categories, which are based on type and beneficiary of service. That is also defined in your policy. Prioritizing, again, the essential community-wide interest and access for all. Individualized services, again, at a higher cost recovery, a lower subsidy. We have a needs-based assistance component that is in the policy. And then the fee adjustments, which I had reviewed previously. And then the policy also includes competitive pricing, allowing us to remain within the market. A sample of what the book of fees will now look like if you choose to approve this evening. We will have one page of a book of fees that is inclusive of our parks and recreation fees, really specific to programs and services. And so the language will direct our residents to our playbook and our website for pricing, and then it also outlines the service categories. So there's a sample there that shows the service category, the definition, examples of programs and services, as well as what that cost recovery goal is. In your packet, you will notice that there is a separate page that is specific to facility rentals. So all facility rentals that are in our department have their own page in the book of fees. And this was to remain consistent with the rest of the city's book of fees. Other facility fees are located there, and so we wanted to remain consistent. As far as our timeline, this evening we're conducting the public hearing, asking for your consideration of adoption. And then we are looking to finalize our fee assistance program. The goal is to have that completed by December. And then also with that program will be a budget request. Right now we do have minimal amount of money in our budget that by formalizing this and offering it to more programs, we do anticipate an increase in requests. And then that also gives us time for a marketing campaign, and we would not implement our fees until January this next year. So our recommended action for this evening, again, you have 4 items before you, and that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Yes. Miss Sharon Takita is unable to attend tonight's meeting. But she mentioned that she's a member of the Tai Chi class at the community center, and her and her classmates would like to attend, but the issue is number 10 on the agenda. Most of us are in our 70s and 80s, and the hour that our issue is to be heard is too late. So she said the current fee is $5, which is more than generous, and it does make sense that some increase may be necessary. However, the rumor circulating that the center is that the fee will increase to $35. Is that correct?
No. In attachment 4, we listed out all of the fees.
All right.
So
Is it 35%?
no.
Okay.
I'm not sure where the 35 came from. So right now we are proposing an annual fee of $20 for an annual fee. That's a great example where the cost recovery, in order to meet that goal, was $70 a year, and we knew that that was too high. And so that is considered market rate. And then we also will be offering financial assistance, where previously at the $5 rate, the seniors were not eligible for financial assistance. And so at the $20 a year, they will now be eligible for that.
Okay. And on the low-income subsidy program, with HR 1 coming into implementation and some of it impacting those that are currently eligible, which will be dropped, I think it'll be really hard to maintain that requirement. I think you're going to find a lot of people who are not going to be eligible. And starting off with CalFresh this coming year. So is there a way to amend that so, just for a little bit, maybe until HR 1 is behind us and we're back to on track?
Sure. So part of the reason of not implementing till January is we do want to finalize the procedures for that.
Yeah.
And so right now we have examples from other agencies where any sort of documentation that's government assistance, even for seniors, like PG&E Cares or something that has some sort of support that they are receiving, we would accept that as income eligible.
All right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how people are aware of PG&E Cares or other programs like that.
So we have a...
They call you.
They call you?
Mm-hmm.
And we also employ a case manager at the senior center, and that is her job, is to actually inform our seniors of the various assistance programs that are available. She helps put them in touch with Social Security, disability, and that is part of the services that we provide at no cost.
Okay, great.
I will say, just to add on, just you asked about the PG&E, there's a whole community engagement department, both at PG&E and, doesn't count for us, but SMUD, that reaches out and tries to make sure people who qualify for these programs have access to them.
Yeah, I attended the one at the community center last week. There were a lot of people there, a lot of people behind on their bills.
Makes sense. Gone up a lot.
Yeah. So, okay. Is there a way to follow up with, I mean, it just seems like there's rumors to make sure that people understand.
Yes. So right now we have a senior newsletter that'll be going out in October. So I've been working with staff. We've also engaged with Randall Communications on a strategic communication plan. So I have a targeted campaign just for the seniors, and we'll be kind of working through that in the next few months to educate them, because we don't want there to be misinformation. And then we're also working on a larger campaign to get the entire city informed before the fees do increase in January.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Thank you for that background, the education piece. I don't know if I should respond to Ms. Taquito or you will, but it'd be good for her to be informed now, so she doesn't hear that we approve something that's going to impact her negatively. Okay.
Yep, we can do that.
All right. With that, I guess we're all done. We can move forward. Madam Clerk, do you have a question? Is there any public comment? Other than
I have two requests.
Yes.
Edie or Eddie Werdertz.
Thank you for being here. Hey, I was looking at the fee structure, and it looked like it was going to be raised for our seniors from $5 to $20, which is a 400% increase. And I would suggest that maybe we looked at only $5 a year over the next 4 years, which would be easier for us to be able to pay. It's going to be difficult for
really? The $20?
Yeah, I'm a member. I've been since 18, and I've never been asked about any of this. It just got getting thrown at us, and we're hearing about it, and we're really not pleased. We've never been asked a question.
So there's the subsidy that if you qualify, you will be able to receive some support. That's what I understand.
We don't know about any of this. We haven't heard anything. It's been this is a July meeting. that
Right.
I was taking the notes off.
Oh, okay.
And-
From here, yes.
Yeah, from here.
Okay.
I watched it on TV.
Right, okay.
So I showed up. I missed
Right, that's-
last month.
So, do you know, well, you wouldn't know. It's my impression that those with some sort of government, some sort of support, program assistance or anything would qualify, would receive a subsidy, so it,
That would be really nice to hear or see on a piece of paper.
okay.
Because we got a lot of anxiety going on.
I'm not sure if it'll go all the way down to $5.
No, but if they just raised it $5 this year, $5 the next, and
Move
it
up
would
incrementally.
I
From
dropped
5
the
to
letter
20
off
is
about
hard.
the frog in the pot of water.
Yeah,
Turn the heat up slowly, you get dinner. Throw him in boiling water, he jumps, and you keep on.
okay, that's good to know.
Right.
Thank you.
Gina Milborn?
Sheila.
We have no additional requests to speak on this item.
Closing the public comment, bringing it back to council. Are there any questions? Just, Kate, real quick, responding to the concern, the 5 to 20, but, is there the support, the finance, what does the financial assistance look like?
Yeah, so again, we have not publicized it because you all needed to approve this. So that was really our first domino. And so we wanted to give ourselves 3 months. So we have October, November, and December to work with our seniors as well as all of our participants to make sure that they are informed, that we have our procedures in place. So we are not trying to just increase the numbers and the prices to our residents without informing them. So you all tonight is kind of that first step in the process.
So so it is going to go from 5 to 20, but if they have some kind of assistance from some program, what would be the rate?
That's what we're going to work out. So we have similar agencies that offer up to 50%. We could possibly, increase that if we needed to. So yes, that's part of our process that
Okay.
we are going to work out.
Do we give you any direction on that?
Yeah, if you all have specific policy direction that you would like us to incorporate, now would be the time.
That's helpful. The 50% is based on the feedback I'm hearing from the senior here that was sharing incrementally is a good approach. I think it's a good suggestion. So the 50%, if they show that they are on some, low-income program assistance, then that will get them to the $10 because it's the 50%.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. With that, and I think, are you all okay with that recommendation?
Fine.
Okay, good. We have to adopt Resolution 25-99.
Move.
Early second.
Madam Clerk, Councilmember Early moved, and Councilmember Alcala seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Acala?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Councilmember Roscoe? Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Ho?
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero?
Aye. This is now approved. And next we have our general administration. Function Part 2, any reports from council? Assignments?
I'll just mention, Yolo Sub-Basin Groundwater Agency met today. We are discussing fee increases, and we're going through what the fee structure would look like right now. No action on anybody's part.
Okay, thank you. Right, I will say that I did take a look at this information here. Attend an award ceremony from Breathe, California, and Jasmine Garcia was the awardee for her being a vocal advocate. And
Great.
I'm just said that because I know you all know her, and totally deserved. Council calendar.
Good evening. Just a reminder that this Saturday is the California Firefighters Memorial. That's downtown on K Street at 3 p.m.
Firefighter Memorial is in the Convention Center?
Right.
Right. Starts there, 3 p.m.
And then there's
Si-
a walk over to the actual memorial.
Then we walk over to the memorial. City manager report?
No report tonight, thank you.
City attorney report? Any staff direction from city council members? Nothing? All right. No future agenda items request. We are now adjourned.